Hello and welcome. You're watching Season 5 of the FNCS, or the Fortnite Champion Series for Oceania, presented by the Australian Open. My name is Vandy. I'll be your host for today, and I'm joined by my amazing analysts. We've got Fallout as well as Timmy. Guys, it's finals week. It's happening. We've officially made it. How are you feeling about it?
We're finally here, the best of the best in Oceania, and to celebrate, Timmy and I had to bust out the party shirts for Friday here. It's Party Shirt Friday. It's Oceania Finals Friday, and I am so excited. Timmy, how you feeling, brother?
I'm feeling really good. I got my party shirt on, like you said. Ready to watch some really good Fortnite today.
I'm really glad to hear that because, guys, it's been 4 amazing weeks of action. Last week we had, of course, the semifinals over 2 days. And, of course, today we'll be bringing the finals over 2 days. But I'm not going to steal away from your explanation for that. This is to bring everyone up to speed. Perhaps you're just joining us for the first time. Perhaps you've been with us the entire ride. But let's explain how the tournament has been structured so far and how did we get here to the finals itself.
Absolutely, Vandy. It's been a long road to get here, and we'll pull up a graphic that'll help explain it all. So it was a first off 3 qualifiers in weeks 1 through 3 to kick it off. Each qualifier featured 4 rounds, which is one more last than last FNCS. As a result of those qualifiers, which, by the way, were open to anyone that were able to qualify through and make it to Champions with an Arena, top 132 teams qualified for the semifinals, which was a 2-day affair with 4 separate heats, heats 1 through 4. As a result of that, the top 8 from each heat qualified through to the finals. 9th through 16th got placed in a reboot round, which was so much fun to watch. And of course, in the end, it was Bluesy, Lazy, and Reckless that pulled it out of nowhere. Congratulations to them. We'll be seeing them compete today. And that leads into our grand finals starting today, which is a 2-day affair as well. However, a little bit different. 6 games per day for a 12-game cumulative final. Points will carry over until tomorrow. It's going to be an insane grand final. Consistency and stamina are going to be key to crown our Chapter 2 Season 5 FNCS champions, Vandy.
Thank you so much for that. Exactly right. And points is something really important to touch on because we used the exact same scoring from the beginning of the tournament, and we're not changing anything for the grand finals. Timmy, take us through exactly how the scoring has worked for, again, anyone just joining us, or if anyone needs just a little bit of a refresher.
Yeah, sure. So as Fallout said, it's all about the consistency over these next 2 days. So what we're going to want to see is a range of play styles that get rewarded. So as you see there on the top left, 30 points for the win, for the Victory Royale. But as you go down the list, 25 points for second, 20 points for third, 14 for fourth. So what that means is it's really top heavy. Most of the points get distributed in that top 3 to 4 range. But to offset that, these guys are offering 2 points per elim. And now that's a really important point because it means that if you're not playing on height, which is really dominant this season, and you're playing through mid-ground where elims are easy to come by, you're going to get rewarded for those elims. 2 points is a lot of points for an elim. So like I said, we're going to see a range of play styles rewarded, but it's all about consistency, like Fallout said, Vandy.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Timmy. Exactly right. And we've seen such different play styles kind of come through. We've also seen where the mid-game can become so much more important if you are able to pick up those eliminations and kind of prime yourself to then try and push for height. So there's been lots of different tactics coming out through, and it's been really wonderful to see. Fallout, of course, now, this is going to be the carrot, of course, that we've been dangling over the last few weeks, prizes. Now, of course, they really do come into play. Let's remind everybody what the prize pool is.
Absolutely, and I'm excited to talk about the different play styles and different teams here in a moment. But first things first, what's at stake? A significant prize pool. That's at stake. $90,000 in U.S. dollars, which, of course, is around 115 to 120 Australian dollars. 22 grand for first place. Our winning championship team will walk home with 22 grand this weekend. Insane to think about. 15 grand for second, 9 grand for third, all the way down to 11th through 15th, who will walk home with $900 dues. They won't go home empty-handed either. And keep in mind, the prize pool has been accumulated throughout the entire tournament for this day today. And, of course, tomorrow, the grand finals. This is where it all matters. I love the fact, we've been saying it every week, but I'll say it again. I love the fact that this feels like an S-tier event. This feels like a major, and you have to qualify. You have to go big when it matters the most, which is in the grand finals, to be able to take home a significant or part of that lion's share of that prize pool, Vandy.
Absolutely. This is the carrot that we've been dangling in front of the players, and now it all becomes real. Roughly about half of these players competing today and tomorrow will be walking away with some cash in their back pocket. So it's really, really cool to see them all vie for that because, as I said, it's been about 4 weeks. So we've kind of built up to this stage. Now, of course, we need to remind everybody about the heats that we had last week. So as I kind of touched on last week, we had semifinals 1 and 2 over Saturday and Sunday. But let's just go ahead and refresh everyone. We're going to actually just do the top 5 from each heat. And Alice, I'm going to borrow your brains. Timmy, why don't you get us started with Heat A and just recap the results?
Yeah, sure. So Heat A saw one of the more dominant performances of the weekend as we go through. Sorov, Sink, and Volks winning by more than 60 points with 2 victory royales and 41 elims. A dominant performance from these guys, but not the only team of note on this list, although these are one of my favorites. We've got Danith Osiris and Skits in second there, Suns, Tui and Cork in third, Shocker Midnight and Tekma, and then Peaky, Box, and Seldom rounding out the top 5 for Heat A Fallout.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, you mentioned it. Sorov, Volks, and Sink, I think, are a team you're going to have to keep an eye out for today. Moving on to Heat B. This was the most stacked heat that we had, hands down, bar none. Was an insane one to watch. Muzzluder and Speedy took it home, which actually begs the question between Muzzluder and Speedy, Jinx, Alec, Worthy. Those are kind of the top 2 Titans coming into the tournament who we think are going to win it. I'm excited to talk about that in the predictions a little bit later. But you can't sleep on Basil, Vortex, and Jace as well. I was very impressed. In my eyes, the most entertaining team to watch with how aggro they played. So, very, very aggressive in the late game, always playing mid-ground, playing for kill or eliminations. It was awesome to watch. Rapta, Prizzy, and Oatley in 4th, and then Vojcic, Mania, and Trexie, a team we maybe didn't necessarily expect to get 5th place. Very, very impressed from them. One thing to also keep in mind, Fresh, Rel, and Nubatoon took home 7th place. And then, of course, we had Zora, Jalen, and Squeaks right behind them in 6th place, Timmy.
Yeah, definitely, and a really, really good performance from those guys to clutch up on those on that final game to qualify in that top 8. But we didn't really pass over them. Anyway, Heat C. This is one of the weaker heats. And as we see there, the top 2 teams taking away 5 of the victory royales out of the 6 games. Crazy performance from Cripper is Live, Rip and BMP. 175 points, just taking the edge over Bathan, Zedox, and Sia, who you see there took home 3 wins out of the 6 games. So crazy performance from them. I'm looking to see if they can make something happen today in Grands. Rounding out the top 5, you've got Arrest, Lucas, and Cynical, Me Sport, Soul, and Ice. One of the teams that you wouldn't have expected to see anywhere near the top 5, but those guys made it work. And I'm not too sure if anyone has seen on Twitter, Me Sport, Soul have had to actually come together, and they're playing next to each other today, almost like a LAN setting.
I love it.
Because Soul's had some internet issues. So it's going to be interesting to see how that one goes. And then rounding out our top 5, we've got Brezzo, who was obviously our last AO champion, with Culture and Luna to take top 5 there, Fallout.
Yeah, this was our hands-down most competitive group if you look at the point differentials. But then, of course, we had Heat D to round things out, which was on broadcast. It was Pumpkin, Cyper, and Suns taking home first place quite decisively. I know it doesn't show right there in the stats, but really the first 3 or 4 games, they dominated. They were up by like 80 or 90 or 100 points at some point, and then they kind of coasted to first place. After that, it was Zans, Oreo, and Raikou who looked solid, looked consistent throughout. Mavericks, Machu, and Elusive in 3rd place behind them. And then that user gamer tag right there is Talon, alongside Jedi and Toy Swag in 4th, Will, Ronan, and Eshes in 5th place. And one thing that was interesting about Heat D was not necessarily who qualified, but who didn't qualify. Flexi, Slaya, and Radius not qualifying through. I know there was your pick as well, and Go Egg Scammer and Zalker that didn't make it as well, Timmy.
Yeah. So 2 top teams there not making it through. Sad story. Didn't quite make it through on the reboot round as well. So yeah, it's sad to not see them in the finals, but where they've missed out, we're going to see 2 new teams come in and hopefully make a name for themselves, Vandy.
Thank you so much, guys. Exactly right. So as I said, it was 4 heats full of action. We broadcasted 2 of them. And it just goes to show as well, just looking at the recap of the top 5, the teams that were able to capitalize on not just placement, but as well as eliminations, Timmy, what you keep highlighting, they're the teams that really comfortably anchored themselves towards the top end of the scoreboard. So I'm wondering if that's kind of how this all plays out again. But Fallout, you kind of hinted on this a little bit, predictions. This is actually, it's become one of my favorite parts. So what we actually do is we ask the casters, we ask the analysts for their predictions. Let's go ahead and bring them up. And then, Timmy, I'm going to get you to talk through because you're kind of like the man to beat in terms of predictions. You've been almost flawless.
Yeah, aside from last week, I think I've been pretty decent. But as we said from last week when we were doing Heat B, Muzzleloader and Speedy were my pick for their consistency. Now, across 12 games, which we've got, so we've got tomorrow and then today, We're going to have 12 games that they need to consistently play, and I believe that's when Muzzluder and Speedy are just going to have it over the other 3 teams that we see on here, Fallout.
Yeah, and I agree. And look, I've been on the Jinxworthy and Alec train the entire tournament. I've really been impressed by them. However, I was more impressed by Muzzluder and Speedy in Heat B. That stacked Heat, they looked so incredibly sharp, really looked to be in a class of their own, again, in terms of consistency and actually also well-roundedness. Their ability to play mid-ground in the late game and play for high elims, or their ability to take high ground when it matters. I think they won a game or 2 on high ground as well. They were looking very, very sharp. So that's my pick. And then, of course, Aussie picking Sink, Volks, and Sorif, shaking things up a little bit, making it interesting, which I respect, but I would certainly put them in that S tier, that A tier, alongside these other teams on screen, and MDF with Jinx, Worthy, and Alec. Your thoughts on our casters picks, Timmy?
Yeah, well, I put it out on Twitter last night. My predictions, I think any one of these 3 teams, if you pick them to win, I think you've picked someone decent. I can see why anyone will make an argument for any of these 3 teams taking the win today. Sink, Volks, and Sorif, dominant Heat 1, and then dominant in Week 1 as well. Jinxworthy and Alec, we know their history, we know their pedigree, and then Muzzler and Speedy, one of the best IGLs in the game, with Speedy followed by 2, extremely mechanical players. We know how good they are. It's just whether or not they can put it together on the day. And if I've got to be honest, if I don't see one of these 3 teams take the win, I think it's probably a bit of an upset, Fallout.
Yep, I definitely agree with that. A very, very good shakeup in terms of predictions in the top teams there, but I'm excited to see what teams like ZX and CO can do, Kripa and Rip, some of our kind of dark horse teams that we wouldn't necessarily expect to put on that list, but they did really well in their heat, so I'm excited to see what they can do, Vandy.
I'm excited too. As you said, these top 3 teams, we've heard their names again and again, week on week. So it's interesting to me because it almost looks as though it's like analysts versus casters. I wonder how Aussie and Monster are going to take it. But let's check in with them. You've heard enough from the analysis desk. You've heard us kind of prime it up for game number 1. We're going to throw it over to you casters as we get ready for match number 1 today.
Welcome, guys. Yes, we have match number 1 almost underway. We have the first day of 2 days for the finals, Monster. We've been building up for weeks to this. We have no prize money up until now to save it for this massive, massive weekend. And yes, Vandy, I mean, we almost kind of had the casters versus analysts. I was talking to Monster how I was probably actually going to pick Jinx, Alec, and Worthy, but I saw no one picked Sink, Volks, and Sorif, and I can't do my boys like that. They look so strong coming into it. So we'll see. Maybe I'll be wrong. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm wrong, but these 3 teams are the favorites, but we've got some big names there, Monster, we're not talking about.
Yeah, definitely. There's so many names here. Obviously, we know we're going to see Repulse show up, right? Even amidst all technical issues, right? Like think about it. We have a 2-day competition here, guys. Everyone is still going to have a chance here. And then, of course, caster picks aside, Aussie, we saw other big names step up to the plate. I mean, you call players like Sorif coming into this, right? Kind of on lead up. There's a bunch of squads that can pop off here.
Yeah, and I mean, OCE, as much as we talk about how it's a top-heavy region, a lot of players, again, we've been seeing in the qualifying weeks, they've been maybe not taking it 100% seriously because they know how good they are. But when it comes to the finals, we've had upsets in the past. And I'd love to see a team maybe like Basil, Vortex, Jace really show up and prove that they can be that top 3 or even the victors. Because, I mean, I love going for an underdog, but there's some strong names. And like you said, it's a 12-game format, though. So a lot of us casters, analysts, we're going to pick off consistency because that's what this format is built around. We've looked at if you're getting consistent top 3s, you're getting that big chunk of placement, eliminations are worth 2, and you do that across 12 games, that's what you have to go off. But yeah, I think teams like Basil, Vortex, Jace, who maybe play more of those mid and low ground layers, kind of like Sensor on NA East, Monster, in a 12-game format, I'm kind of leaning towards, I wouldn't be too surprised if they pull it off because all the big guys are probably going to be going for height. That might not have the consistency they want.
And that's the thing. In a final stage, we've seen teams that play for height or play for the win, if you will, every single round, end up clashing against one another, end up throwing each other's games out, and then more often than not, kind of take themselves out of the race because they clash up, and we're expecting that. I mean, listen, I picked the previous FNCS trio champions because you have to have them in this talk, right? Like, there's no way we're not going to throw them up as a prediction because realistically, everyone knows how good that trio is.
Yeah, and I mean, Jinx is currently in the running. He's already the only person in the world with 3 FNCSs under his belt. If he can make it 4, that would be ridiculous. And they have it within grasp. They have a fantastic drop spot. They've had fantastic consistency consistency coming into it. Nothing has changed. There's no reason why they shouldn't be able to do it. But when we talk about this consistency, I think that's interesting, Monster, because we had this 12-game format last season as well across 2 days. Jinx, Alec, and Worthy didn't actually win either of the days, but they managed to win the tournament overall. And that's why you got to pick teams like that who can be really, really consistent. So teams like Repulse that we know had a phenomenal day 2, picking up 3 of the 6 victory hours because they didn't show up big on day 1. It let them down. But it just shows if they can somehow put it together here today, they could cause the upset as well. So I'm incredibly excited. I mean, we haven't had an FNCS like this, Monster, where no prize money up until now to really make this weekend feel like the premier weekend of Fortnite.
And not only that, we are talking, it's being broadcasted too, right? This is the first for OCE to have this also on the stage. And that's a whole different factor we didn't even really bring into this. Yeah. The fact that now you're on a stage. Now you have the cameras on. The casters are here. Everyone showed up in their, what's they called it? The party suit? The party t-shirts. We're here to play. We're here to party. We're here to watch some gameplay. And for players, this could be a factor that they haven't experienced before.
It is. I mean, it's highlighting play as well. We've seen a lot of stuff we wouldn't normally see. Jinx has previously been streaming all the FNCSs he wins, which is always more hyped. It's more exciting. But a lot of those teams that wouldn't normally have eyes on them, like Repulse's team, like Basil, Vortex, Jace, it does make things different. I wonder if they're feeling the pressure as well. We've already had some big highlight moments across the weeks leading up to this as well. We've had some gut-wrenching moments in those qualifiers where we had to watch teams right on the bubble have those early fights that otherwise we wouldn't have seen. So it's a good point to make. I wonder if they're feeling the pressure because when you're on the big stage, all the lights are on you, everyone's watching. That's where the true champions show up.
Yeah, and listen, players crumble when this kind of situation is on, right? Now you're being tossed into the heat here. We're ready for some suspenseful situations to go down. And again, who walks away with day 1 is going to be the one that sets him up, right? You really want the momentum coming in. Day 1 is so important. I think it's very much the most crucial part of this whole thing here.
It is, but we don't have to ask any longer who is going to start off strong, who is going to kick this tournament off, and who is going to jump into the lead as we have game number 1 of day 1 of the finals underway. Like we just touched on, there's going to be 6 games here tonight and 6 games tomorrow at the same time. And already we're getting kind of eyes on what's going on here. We've got Gustos' team landing on the edge. They're going to go for that slurp truck, which is awesome. Guaranteed shield off the bat. Doesn't look like a very strong drop spot they're going for, Monster, but NA East FNCS Victors reverse 2K Day and Miro last season had that same drop spot. So I like they're going there as well. I'm seeing some other names in the feed. I'm kind of looking at who's dropping where, and no huge surprises. We have Jinx, Alec, and Worthy, uncontested Dirty Dogs. One thing that I do have to point out, and potentially this was something if you were paying attention on social media, we do not have Repulse, God, Forbes, or Tyrax in game 1. Unfortunately, Forbes is having some technical difficulties. That's why you're seeing Misty Meadows, uncontested, Reckless team coming in. I'm pretty sure they're just doing that knowing they didn't see them. Look at the arrows move around, Monster. They're just 100% making sure that they aren't contested. But as I say, that Cypher in the top right, CLR hard worker, picks up an elimination on the bridge.
Yeah, that's a big way to set things off. They actually have 2 already picking players off of their rotate, and that's what happens when you battle for these shambles routes, right? You want to alpha up for these draw spots, maybe play for the slurp truck. You know, it's a double-edged sword here. If you don't land on the weapon, right, because there's only a few there, you will be starting to fall behind here. So way to kick things off for themselves, a couple elims here, and they have the entire Salty Tower to themselves.
Yeah, I'm looking at this map, Monster. This is a very spread out map. That's the only team that was really contesting or anywhere near each other. Everything else on this map is uncontested. Everyone's found their shambles route except for, I was about to mention that, I noticed there was a few extra people at Pleasant. So Pleasant looking like it's probably the only POI so far here today contested. It'll be interesting to see if Repulse's team gets into next game, whether we see Reckless, which is obviously our reboot round winners, kind of vacate Misty. Maybe they understand, because I'm not just saying it because they're the reboot round winners. We've seen reboot round winners do phenomenal things in the past. I'm just saying because it's Repulse's drop spot, there's a reason it's been uncontested every single week they've been playing in. And interesting enough, I talked about Pleasant being contested. It looks like Rip and Crip are happy to get out of here and not fighting Pleasant, just taking the bit of loot they have and going to the bridge. This is really interesting to see.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great spot to rotate into, but they're going to get spotted out here by Zidox. And now trying to work with one another to go ahead and back it up here. this is going to be a clash of sorts. But no, ZDoX doesn't necessarily want to take this. But remember, Storm Surge will be an issue for teams, right? These are situations where if you're ZDoX and your trio's not near you, which is Sayo Bath in there, you should still go for the tags, in my opinion, here.
Yeah, I think he's still going to get tags, and that's going to be the issue with this. We've got Storm Surge lobbies right now. These are the stacked best of the best players in OCE. They're going to show up, and they're going to want to start a little bit slow. No one usually shows up going full aggression to start. Even for the players like Jinx, who've already got 3 FNCS victories under their belt, I'm sure they're feeling a bit nervous. They're going to come out, they're going to test the waters, right? No one dives straight in these kind of situations. Dip the toes in, see if it's warm, is it cold, where's everybody going, who's on my rotate path, how stacked the game's going to be, how does high ground look. So at the same time, I think Surge is going to be a huge issue this first game for a lot of players.
Yeah, Storm Surge definitely does end up being the demise for most teams, especially when you come in underprepared or you just don't really realize how spread out players are. And the way this map in particular is already kind of diced out, players have good distancing between one another. So if you're at a major POI like this, I feel like you're just going to be late to the rotate, late to the punch when it comes into making it to the new zone, especially when it lands on top of you like it has for this team here inside of the retail row.
You get the zone. Sometimes it is a double-edged sword. I don't know. We'll have to see how they play it out. Retail Row is a drop spot that had a lot of issues last FNCS for OC. We had big names battling over it, fighting over it. I don't know. There's not really one drop spot I'd kind of pegged so far, Monsters. We've seen a lot of the storylines come out of, or a lot of drama around it. And I'm so intrigued, and I'm so excited to see a map that was this clear. I know you want to see people contest, right? You want to see that action early on, but seeing a map where so many people have those scavenger routes planned out, and everyone is clearly in the community discussed or figured out where they're dropping, which I think is a testament to how good OC's practice scene is. It's going to lead to some ridiculous games. We've only had 2 eliminations so far, and it's the 2 we saw at the very start on this bridge. That is it. No one else has gone down yet. These games are going to be insanely stacked, but as the day goes on, as tomorrow, as the games go by, that's when I'm expecting people to change it up, because that's when you got to pick up the pace. But starting off, OC has done their homework.
Yeah, definitely. It's that slow, menacing pace. It's that grand final stage. You can feel the tension in the air between every single engagement. And all of these shots that get connected with right now are definitely one step closer to securing victories here, because these tags, with how many players are alive, with how little interactions have happened, everyone's going to be neck and neck in a race, if you will, to take a box fight or to find some kind of tags, desperately as the clock ticks on.
And that's what's going to be interesting. Those teams that have the experience, I'm looking at teams like Jinx's team, like Volx's team, like our caster picks, to get their damage early and set up away from these teams. They've been playing an OC for a while. They know there's going to be some players in here who are nervous, who don't have the same level of experience they do, and those are the players you have to be the most scared of. If they sit up on your wall and they're setting up to get in for their Storm Surge, I've said it time and time again on the broadcast, don't like to call anyone out, but if you're box fighting for your Storm Surge, you've done something wrong. And I guarantee I would put so much money on it, Monster. We're going to see somebody box fighting for their Surge in the next few minutes.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? You said it. You're doing something wrong. The preparation isn't quite there. Every trio we've tuned in with so far hasn't had one of those exceptional loadouts. Like, look at the medium ammo here. You have something to work with. You just don't have a lot. And that's the story for most of these trios right now. Kind of just trying to put something together.
Yeah, and this is interesting. Pace, Remy, and Spraz. We've seen a lot of conflict with them around the teams at Caddy. They've been dropping the weather station, doing the Misty Meadows split around that side of things. I was going to say they have to be careful of Tekmar's team that's down below, who did actually get Caddy corners, as we see Kazuki, DJ, and Chris. And this is an interesting team right now, right up on the edge of Hunter's Haven. This is a team that does have a little bit more of that experience. Like I said, setting up in a good spot with big sightlines for Storm Surge. And you're going to hear us talk about that a lot tonight. So I'll take this moment to explain it a little bit for you guys at home. Not going to break it down to full detail, but it's very simple. It is just a threshold of damage that teams have to get above. If you're the team that's done the least amount of damage in the lobby and there's too many players alive at a certain zone, we'll tell you which ones they are when they're coming, they will have to deal damage to be above that threshold. And that's why you see players doing this, setting up for damage tags on players they're clearly not going to eliminate, but you need to be active. That's why it exists as a mechanic, as a feature. You don't want teams just getting to center zone, boxing up in metal, and just sitting there doing nothing. It forces them to be active, and it truly shows you who is the best of the best, who can manage their material, manage their rotates, manage their ammo, get damaged along the way, not get headshot sniped. Like, you know what I mean? It just adds so much to it, Monster. As you see players like this, Tekmar take a big base early on, which is fantastic, but have they done enough damage to do this? There's not a lot of players around them.
Yeah, and just to further elaborate, what does this mean for the player? It's a different kind of Fortnite. If you're not preparing in the competitive and or scrim scene for these kind of situations, you're going to come in and it's going to feel overwhelming when the number kicks on. Everyone knows what to do, but no one really understands how to prepare for it unless you put yourself in preparation phase. This team here, a team that I don't really know much of, I'll be honest, they seem like they're in full-on preparation mode. High ground, big tower, looking at teams, making their rotates, finding their tags. That is the ideal situation to be in.
Yeah, right now, Puma's team, same thing as well. I mean, I don't know too much about this team coming into it as well, but I'm going to start paying attention because they've set up really, really well. Clearly been putting in the practice, putting in the game knowledge, knowing where they need to set up for their Storm Surge tags so they're able to get them. And we talked about it. Timmy said it in the pre-show as well. There's a couple of big teams that didn't make it into this. I'm looking mostly at Slayer's team and Zalka's team. They both fell short in their qualifying weeks, in their heats. They fell short in the reboot rounds, and now they're not here. So we're going to see some of those names and some of those teams step up that we don't know a lot about. But I talked about this before. Our first ever Season X Trio FNCS for OCE, the team that came in last place to qualify, the 33rd team, I believe it was Minkin, Hilo, and Gancho. I hope I've got that right because we're going back a long way. They managed to come first in the grand finals. The team that qualified in last, Monster. So you can't count anyone out.
Yeah, I think the only other time we saw that might have been like Teak in a DreamHack Grand Finals or something crazy like that. Those last place qualification marks. It just goes to prove that it doesn't matter. If you can make it to a final stage, you're very much worthy of taking home the entire thing. Sometimes you just need a little luck, right? A little zone favor. Maybe the wrong team to come across you. So many different things can factor into your victory. But again, for FNCS finals, it just proves you got the skill. That's for sure. You've made it this far.
Yeah, and I'm talking about, I was talking about names, up and comers and people you haven't heard about. As I see Jarlan, Zora, and Squeak set up on the hill next to Fresh, Rel, and Nubatoon. So big names here. As you can see, these are the biggest of the biggest here as well. Absolute competitive pedigree. Fresh obviously falling into that content creator kind of, bucket. And recently I feel like he's broken out of that. He's been putting in more practice as anyone as Rivley, Clean, and Apolox go down here to Basil, Vortex, and Jace. As I say that though, it looks like they went down to Basil. Vortex is still up, but Jace is gone. So they're going to have to hit the reboot onto Jace to get him back up. And that's one of those teams I've been talking about to surprise a lot of players here and have a big game. I noticed from that early map shot though, Monster, Fresh, Rel, and Nubatoon out of Holly Hedges, getting that Rainbow Rentals Viking split like they like. They're getting it all to themselves. And game one, they had a llama as well. So I'm excited to see how this team goes here because as fan favorites, they did struggle a little bit in their qualifying weeks. I was going to say Fresh has been putting in the hours into scrims, honestly practicing harder than I've seen him practice since possibly before World Cup days. But this kind of season, things didn't come together as much. They've just kind of slid through in each week, but I want to see him show up on the big stage. If anyone's not nervous, it's probably Fresh. My man is calm, cool, and collected at all times.
And these teams we're jumping in with right now, though, they're setting up for fights, and they're setting up early. These are squads that know they're going to be below the surge potentially here,
below.
And they're trying to get to it before the surge actually closes in. So already, and this is the worst case scenario now for a team like Basso and Vortex, who have already lost Jace God, and they're above the surge. And look, they're trying to distance themselves away. You do not want to be next to a team that needs surge. Not this early, especially when they're trying to take this fight extended.
Oh, they need to get out of this. Like we said, this is the riskiest team to be around right now. A team that is desperate for surge. You've done everything. I want to say everything right. They have 3 eliminations on the board. They wiped that whole trio. They lost Jace in the process, but they're fine. They're happy to rotate right now. If it wasn't for this team behind them, pressuring them for Storm Surge, they'd be in. They'd be sitting pretty. And that's why I talked about this as a feature. It's a mechanic implemented by Epic Games to create these fights. Unfortunately, I guarantee Vortex's team right now not too happy about it because it's a team that hasn't done their preparation that now has the potential to really hurt their chances this game as Basil and Vortex have to run away and use all their material to disengage from a team that is now in Storm trying to fight them for Storm Surge. Box, Peaksguard, and HVT are just committing absolute cardinal sins of competitive Fortnite right now, Monster.
This is the equivalent of being contested at a drop spot. Like, you hate to be contested, right? And then a drawn out one. This is even worse than that because you're already situated. You're just trying to do your thing coming into late game, and these guys have to fight. So it's a worst case scenario for them. It's a nightmare situation. Even their Vortex not having those opportunities to break the bouncers, they just have, they're kind of laying it out for them to get chased down.
Yeah, right now, this is not the situation. HVT's team has a decent loadout, but they're still 93 below. They're trying to hit these shots, and this is just, again, I talked about, if you're box fighting for your Surge, you've done something wrong. If you're Storm fighting for your Surge, you've done everything wrong. You have literally done everything wrong to lead up to this point, and unfortunately, it is going to be kind of, taking a big toll on one of our favorite teams here, Basil, Vortex, and Jace, to do well, as we see Nep in the top right as well, Aspect and Krypton trying to take a fight as well, and they're only 76 above. Now only 54 above, so that is also a Storm Surge motivated fight. As we have 81 players alive, it needs to go below 70. So as you see, that damage that's now breaking down onto HVT's team, 25 damage is going to go down every 5 seconds for this team right now, and they're just going to keep getting hit until one of them goes down, or they can get above that Storm Surge threshold, or 7 more players are out of this game, which is not going to happen anytime soon.
Well, look at this. Best player is going to jump right back into it. So HVT is going to find his teammate's loot, who went down to the Storm. And now, again, getting held out here, possibly by... Yes, it is going to be the same team that they were chasing out, which is Basso and company. But no, there's another team off to the side. It's the GEM boys. It seems like they're looking inside right now, trying to put in some shots. Fury Skits is going to find some as well. GLM Osiris here and Daneth. And look at that. Easy free picks on the edge of the Storm. I was going to say for Forbidden, I wanted them to look back and continue firing back when Basso and them were getting chased. I wish they just put down a couple tags. Those would have been such free elims.
And we have Muzz, Speedy, and Luda right now. This is Timmy's pick coming into this. 2 of the favorites as well coming into it. They are really looking fantastic. Timmy shouted out Speedy's insane IGL abilities with Luda and Muzz's ridiculous mechanics, and honestly, couldn't say it better there. It is that ideal trio of the brain and then the 2 muscles as well to be able to fight it out. But they're in a good spot right now. They kind of rotated. This is an interesting first zone, pulling more towards that southeast to east section. It's going to go around the mountains at caddy corners. It's going to favor a team like Luda's team, which has been dropping Lazy Lake uncontested. Zone heading towards them. Normally that can be an issue for a lot of teams, but we talk about teams doing preparation coming into this. Luda, Speedy, and Muzz have probably done almost more preparation than any other team. Some of the hardest workers in the community, really figuring out their game plans. As here we go. This is an interesting team for me, Monster. Suns, Cork, and Tui. It's a team that, I don't know, they haven't really been in the big talking points, but anyone in OCE knows of this team and knows the potential they have. But because they've been dropping that Hydro Dam for the RPG, and they've been contested week after week, game after game, we haven't been able to see what they can do when they're uncontested. 2 eliminations on the board for Tui. Maybe they're still contested, but they're set up in a good spot, and I have to imagine they've got their Surge, they've got 9 rockets in the RPG, and they've still got good loot. They're looking fantastic for an upset here.
Yeah, definitely, especially considering, like you said, those 9 rockets, meaning that they didn't even dig into the rocket pool because they're still capped out, right? They're still very much comfortable. Not only that, they have a pretty decent spot here, a nice position on the crevices of this mountain, low below line of sights for other trios. So one of those spots that you don't really get targeted, and keeping that low profile is going to go a long way if you can bite into the later stages of this round here. Coming into zone 4, this is the mid game. This is the make or break time for most trios. This is where we start approaching that 50+ man Surge. This is where teams crumble, and you couldn't ask for a better zone. Honestly, it's going to play center. It's going to play pretty much dead center for everyone that's there early, and that's the biggest mountains available.
Yeah, and you'll notice there's teams that have done their preparation. Jinx, Alec, and Worthy are set up in a beautiful spot on that mound right there. They knew if it pulled that way, or they pretty much went center. They know that just, you got to play the odds. If you're going center of the zone, chances are, even if you get a max distance pull, you're at least still somewhat close to it. Jinx, Alec, and Worthy in a really good spot now to also try and get half zone. I talked about the preparation that goes into things like for Muzz, Luda, and Speedy's team. They're in a great spot on the edge to try and hold these teams, but they need to make their way up on top of that mound. They're not in the next zone, but this is our 4th zone. 5th is going to be that, I want to say, illustrious half. It goes half into the Storm, half into the current zone, and that is the zone you want to get. The success rate of teams that have half, especially on high ground, is massive. It means that you don't have to rotate through these congested players, because there's 70 people alive right now, Monster. We got to the Storm Surge threshold, and then nobody dropped. Everyone's rotating, everyone's trying to make endgame, and this is just going to make the next Storm Surge even more difficult to try and get above.
Yeah, just notable names still amongst the chaos here inside the mix. Will, Ronan, and Eshes still in this fight right now. You definitely saw Fresh Rel, Nubatoon. Here's a look at
Sink,
Sinky
Sorif, and
Fishy,
Volks.
right? Sorif, exactly, and Volks here. They have a nice position as well in this mountain. The fact that they can even look down through a floor edit is beautiful here. But they're underneath the surge. They have to get active.
They need. Oh, never mind. It jumps back up. Storm Surge kind of playing tricks on it as well. It's just calculating up there. And now this one, I think, is correct, though. One above for Squeaks, Jarl, Zora. As Jarl, I'm pretty sure, gets hit by Faulty. That's probably going to be a headshot snipe, I'm imagining. As we now tune in with Zans, we've got Raikou taking fights. We're just tuning to so many people all trying to make their way up this mountain. And look at this southern side right now. Look at this kind of southwestern section. There are so many teams here as Sorif, Volks, and Sink take some heavy damage. My team, my prediction to win it all this weekend, looking okay. They're above the surge. They have meds, but they're taking damage they didn't need to take, trying to hold teams on the rotate when they already have their surge. You got to look for those points, though. Two eliminations on offer as Luda right now getting some big shots off with that big boy epic tactical shotgun, but I think takes more damage than what he gave out, though, unfortunately, from another team spraying in. And look at all of this focus on this edge right now.
Yeah, this is an extended fight now. Alec is going to get knocked in the feet too. Who was it? We'll have to find out, but that means trades are being made here for big names and small alike. BMP already down a member, no Kripa here. Rip just trying to play together with this trio right now, figure things out. Here's Suns, Cork, and Tui. We said, what can they do? They're doing really good work here. They have someone up against the ropes, and remember, they have the best loadout you can ask for in the game. We have a North Pool on the zone, though. That's going to favor players like Fresh, Rel, Nubatoon, who are just coming in. It's going to be working against all those other teams, though, that rotated in on the dead side.
And I think it was Jinx, Alec, and Worthy a little bit off that one, but I see Worthy also getting a knock on to Sayo right now. We have Mania, unfortunately, holding things down here. Can maybe get the revive. Mania, someone who impressed us massively in their heat. Someone who kind of had a lot of pressure on himself to perform, has been around for a long time, but hasn't had that big moment. As I see Jinx and Worthy go down in the feed, our FNCS champions are either playing it as a solo for Alec or the whole trio is down. That is not looking good. Alec is gone, Monster. I mean, that's a huge upset first game here. Again, 12-game format, but I mean, our reigning champs are going to need it. That is not how you want to start off a tournament.
Yeah, definitely a rough one there, considering they pulled that zone number 4, so something didn't go right on the rotate on in, and that's the nature of Fortnite, though. Mountain to mountain, traversing these kind of valleys, these gaps. If you don't have bouncers, or you get fried out the sky just for making those moves, it's going to be rough. Here's Bansis, though. Talk about lobby focus and whatnot. Someone's going to sneak into that tarp, hit that shotgun shot, and already, I think that's 2 down here on this trio.
Luda, Speedy, and Muzz looking fantastic. We're tuning into team after team who's just, you know, kind of going through tarps. And we see Vortex and Basil are still alive here. And oh my gosh, maybe for not too much longer. A little bit of caster curse there. I talk about it. But they did fantastically to be a player down, rotating away from that team on the edge. But just look how in control Luda, Muzz, and Speedy are here. This just looks like they have everything going their way. Big open base. They have their damage. They're all full health, extra shield, good shotguns. They are looking so strong coming into this endgame. Unless something goes wrong, but they've got other big teams to contest with. I saw Sink, Volks, and Sorif also, all 3 alive, looking healthy. I think the same for Fresh's team. So there's some big names in here to upset it, but game 1 is not disappointing. Everyone we expected to be in it, maybe except for Jinx and a couple other teams, are looking fantastic. Look at Freshwell and Nubatoon. Pepper's popped, full health, front side of zone. They're looking fantastic.
Yeah, not to mention high ground still being held by that unknown team that we saw early on. Jay Vano, Puma, Mr. Tassi, and they pulled the first big moving zone too. So there's a fresh squad up on height. Will a dark horse walk away with these 12 days of games, or 2 days, 12 games of competition? Who knows, man? And look, there they are. As you get the nice wide shot, they are holding things down. And Giovanno, such a great spot to be in, especially if you're coming into this and trying to make a big name for yourself.
I mean, it's pulling off the mountain as well, so players dropping down. They've really got to play that high ground well to make sure the teams don't lay back, wait back for them to go for it as Daneth gets taken down on the low ground. I talked about how we have Basil, Jason, Vortex, one of the more notable low ground teams. Honestly, haven't seen that too much from Squeaks, Jarlin, and Zora, but I love this from them. 3 players who have insane fighting mechanics, some of the best in the region, have been competitive pedigree, trying to make their way through low ground, could do phenomenal things as Tui's gone out of here, but Suns holding on to that RPG, putting down so so much damage. As I say that, Jarlin goes down in the feed to Skits. Suns is going down, going to try and maybe get a shot onto Luna. Has the wall, but I don't think wants to make the edit. No, Suns is playing to try and be a little bit safer. Luna's playing aggressive here, trying to push forward. Doesn't even know the Suns has that RPG to potentially turn on them, but 16 teams, 35 players. I see Volks in the feed, Rel in the feed. The big names are here. Who's going to be able to pull it off as Muzz is not looking fantastic?
Yeah, all of a sudden we saw Muzz and them looking really healthy, and now losing all shield. Here's Suns though, making for the fight. And they've been using this RPG a little differently than we expected. Looking down at the ground. Muzz is gonna get knocked there though on the rotate, so that's one down. Speedy's right there trying to play into that, seeing if he can make the save here. But Raptor, Oatly, and Prizzy already at 4 eliminations, playing offset, that mid-ground layer, be in that dominant spot. This is what Timmy called out. It's those mid-ground teams that will walk away with this tournament at the end of it, because they're gonna be picking up all the elims.
Yeah, right now, and you got Muzz getting those shields back off, so it looked like things were looking a little bit sketchy for Speedy, Luna, and Muzz, but right now they've got time to get their loot back up. I see Suns getting wounds in the feed, getting lit up as a duo. They can't stay on the front side. They've fallen back. They're putting like big damage onto Muzz, though. That was a huge RPG. That team falls. Luna takes down Cork, fresh in the feed as well. Spraz taking down Squeaks, taking that entire team out of this one. Luna's on the low ground, trying to do big things. There's going to be who's getting these eliminations, as honestly, Fresh, Rel, and Nubatoon just on the front side of zone, getting eliminations look fantastic. My pick as well, Volks putting down the big damage, but they don't have the firepower. I'm seeing all these players with RPGs, big shotguns. Sync, Volks, and Luna don't have the firepower, but they're doing fantastic.
Yeah, they definitely managed to bounce their way back. Siphon being what's carrying them here. Sync on the other side, though. A man down. Volks needs some backup. Volks is on the run, but Sync is still clutching up here, even with no HP, and now it's all up to Volks. What can he do? 2 elims already, top 8. Placement. This is where you get it all. You need to out-survive these teams fresh down low with no HP either. It's a close one. He's going to find out Bathan. That's a great find, and now he actually gets the material.
Volks versus Fresh right now is a big one, I say, against Fresh. Fresh drops out, and Luna, Speedy, and Muzz drop down. 3 players, 3 teams alive, 7 players. They are a full trio right now. I have to imagine probably the only full trio in this, unless it's a 3v3v1. It is right now. Vortex has lasted this entire time as a duo, and here we have a 3v3. Raptor, Oatly, Prizzy on the high ground, Luna, Muzz, and Speedy on the low ground. Luna's got that RPG, trying to reload it, going to try and do something big. Maybe we even see a bounce pad up. I don't know. This could even potentially go to a heal off. 30 seconds left. It is all down to Luna, Speedy, and Muzz to try and hold off this high ground domination. They can play this one out. They have the potential to win it. Luna goes for it. He goes for the RPG up. They drop down. It's a shotgun battle. Shotgun to shotgun. Prizzy gets Luna. He's on 13 health. Oatly has this. He has the health advantage right now. They're dropping down. Muzz is trying to fight back. It's just Speedy and Oatly head to head. Oatly has the health advantage, and they come out with the huge victory royale. 12 elimination victory royale from a team that, honestly, we haven't talked that much about, Monster, but we should. They are a fantastic team. Oatly has been popping off on socials right now, in Arena, and now in the first game of FNCS. What a start for those guys.
Yeah, definitely way to kick it off. You saw that 12 eliminations. And again, they didn't even have high ground for free because Puma, Javano, and Tussie there were holding it for the majority of that. So they wrangled it right out of their grips, right? And not only that, they had the high ground pulling all the way through. So it was a battle for.
But honestly, I have to give shout outs to Vortex as well. We saw them as a duo getting fought in Storm for a team that needed Storm Surge, and he managed to come top 3, which we know is that big 6-point swing. So we're going to have to throw it to the analysts, see if there's anything else we missed, because that was an absolutely insane first game here for OCE FNCS Finals.
Thank you so much, casters. Exactly right. It seemed like it kind of came all the way down to shambles, and that squad fight with Raptor, Oatly, Frizzy versus Speedy, Muzz, and Luda, that was just, we couldn't have asked for anything better, guys. But Timmy, this question's for you, because we were discussing a little bit, but Surge felt so influential in this map, number one, because before it hit, it meant it was so important for people to manage, because I think we had about 70 people up.
Yeah, we had 70 alive as fourth was about to start closing, which is very unusual to see. And what it means is that proactive leaders of the team, so in-game leaders, IGLs, those are the ones that are going to be rewarded. If you've got your team to a good position and you've sorted your surge early, that's when you're going to, be rewarded. So that we saw Mr. Tassie, Puma, we saw those guys rewarded for a really, really good set of mid games because they got to a hill early, they got their surge sorted, and then they can have high fallout.
Yeah, that's right. You'll see it here in a moment, but actually you just saw it kind of come through how 70 teams still alive in that Zone 3 was absolutely insane. But then it really became the Speedy Buzz Looter show. At this point in time, they had one elimination, and note, they ended up with about 11 elims. It was an insane finish for them. Vortex somehow managed to kind of rat and solo his way to a very, very solid finish with 6 elims for his team and a top 5 finish as well. But then, this is where they popped off. Despite getting flanked and actually being put in shambles by an RPG, Speedy, Looter, and Muzz are able to recover. They're able to get the Siphon high impact frags that they needed to bounce back into a second place finish. That was an absolutely insane game. Ozzy said it perfectly. Monster said it well. Crazy game, crazy start here. But in the end, it was Rapta, Prizzy, and Oatley who were able to come out on top with a huge 12 elimination game.
It was really entertaining for me to watch as well, because at one point, right, we were kind of just wondering, how did they survive? And then, like you said, just breaking it down, I don't know if there was like a little bit of luck here, a little bit of skill, I'm not really sure. I feel like it was a bit of both, but match number 1 kind of sets the precedent for the rest of the day. And it's already looking very, very promising, it feels, Timmy.
Yes, but, you got to think about the teams that we lost along the way. We've got Alec and Worthy, who went down, at half-half. We're going to see what they can do for the rest of the day. But, teams we haven't talked about, other teams that we saw at the end there, Culture, Brezzo, and Luna we saw at the end. We also saw Mr. Tassi on height. Can he keep on going with that? We're going to have a look at the standings and see what we can look at here, Fallout. But, really good first game. We're going to see what happens for the rest of the day.
Let's go ahead and bring up these standings and then Fallout. One question before we do dive in through these standings. Again, it's kind of that point about eliminations that we were making. How important is it that, players focus on this?
It's insane. It's so important. You always say it. High ground, yes, it'll win you a game. It'll get you placement points, but mid-ground, low ground will win you championships. Guess what? It is Championship Friday here. We're kicking off with our grand finals, and eliminations proved to be correct. As you see, Basil, Vortex, and Jace in third place with 8 eliminations that they're able to pick up. Rapta, Prizzy, and Oatley, they're dropping Slurpee Swamps by themselves. That's such a really great drop spot. Uncontested at Slurpee, because we know that they've really conditioned the region to take that spot. Muzzlooter and Speedy dropping Lazy Lake with the first place finish as well. Very solid from them. But then right behind in fourth place, Fresh, Rel, and Nubatoon stand up with the huge 7 elimination game. And then, of course, Pumpkin, Cyper, and Suns looking very, very good. Elims really proved to be correct here as we take a look at the second page here, Timmy.
Yeah, and you see there, Muzzlooter and Speedy and Oatley had the same amount of elims, so it's that 6-point swing there. That elim, the battle at the end there was what made the difference. But Suns, Tui and Cork there with 18 points, along with Sorif, Volks and Sink, Remy, Pace and Spraz, one of the more veteran teams today, along with Bath and Zedux and Seo in 9th. And then rounding out the top 10, we've got Jay Varno, Puma and Mr. Tassi. That team that I said was nice and proactive. They got on height early, but you can see the difference. You see that difference there in the points. Only 4 points through elims as we round out the top 15 here, Fallout.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, in 11th place, Kripa, Rip, and BMP. They're dropping contested in Pleasant Park, so I don't know if they're going to fare very well. As, of course, most people are aware, if you drop contested, you have a 10 to 15% chance to win a tournament. It is so low, very tough to do. Brezzo, Culture, and Lunar. Of course, Brezzo, the reigning Australian Open champion on controller, first ever player in Fortnite history to win a major on controller. We'll have to keep a close eye on him and Culture, the controller players, alongside Lunar. Daneth, Osiris, and Skits, they fared really, really well throughout the qualifiers. Zora, Jalen, and Squeaks dropping over in Sweaty Sands by themselves, so they will, I think, bounce back and look really, really strong here in this next game here, Timmy, as we take a look at our last and final page of the standings.
Yeah, and I think the thing, as I've been continuously harping on about, is all about consistency. If you can put it together over a run of 6 to 7 games and then have some decent ones around there, it's all about putting it together. So we want to see everyone from 16th through 20th here have a better game. We've got some good names here. Zans, Oreo, Raikou, District Bantuscusos, some teams that we know can do well. It's just about them putting it together and then holding that for the rest of the tournament, Fallout.
That's right. I'm excited to see what happens here in this next game, Vandy.
Mm-hmm. It's not a it's not a sprint. It's definitely a marathon because, of course, this will be over 2 days. But let's check in with our casters because it sounds like match number 2 is ready to begin. But they've heard us break it down. Aussie Antics Monster, now we want to hear from you.
Thank you so much, Vandy. I mean, absolutely insane game one. I had to kind of go and hit the books and be like, wait, so Raptor, Prison, Oatley, I remember they popped off in their heat. I need to check exactly what it was, Monster. We talked about it. Heat number 2, they came in 4th place. Their last game was a 17-elim win. So they've shown up big here in game number 1. We're kicking it off into game number 2. But Monster, do you think they can keep up the consistency? We saw one big game out of them in the heats. The rest of the games were good, but not as fantastic. Now in a 12-game format, they've got to keep up the consistency.
Listen, we're talking about a trio here that pulled a win, the biggest win in the hardest heat, right? So it wasn't just a win. It was arguably one of the hardest heats, right? Actually, the hardest heat there. But hold up, we got to put the brakes here because Chemo and his trio just wiped out a full squad. What just happened there? We're going to kick things off. We don't want to take away from what's on the screen, but well, nice job there.
You don't normally expect that, right? You said hit the brakes. Obviously, Neo's team hitting the gas here. The only team that's contested on the entire map right now, Pleasant Park, ended up being a straight 3v3 drop on the same house. The ultimate 50-50, and we see it. We see a full swing. We see Fab, Chemo, and Neo, a real good team effort, each picking up 1 elimination. They've now wiped the team contestant of Pleasant. They get first zone if they can find it. They also have a Llama to their southeast, and they now have their Storm Surge. Honestly, a fantastic situation to be in. That's the one time you do really want to get that favorable first zone is when you've already got your surge. Let everyone come to you, sit back, sit pretty, get a good spot in zone, and watch everyone else have to fight.
Yeah, not only that, other names that I'm seeing here, Esh, Ronan, Wills, it seems like they're in the game. Retail rose the drop spot. Will's got the entire coastline to himself. That's going to be huge. Stealthy Stronghold, one of the other few contested drop spots here. Looks like Box probably pushed out a bit or playing a cheeky, I guess, information play on the outskirts.
I mean, the same thing I was going to say, though, Monster, really quickly. I'm just noticing it again. Misty Meadows has Reckless Team, which means no Repulse, Forbes, or Tyrax, whatever technical difficulties they are having. Looks like it's going to keep them out of game number 2 as well, which is just so unfortunate. I said they had a legendary run in day 2 of the last FNCS, getting 3 of the 6 wins. And I mean, they're putting on themselves to have to do it again here because they're now sitting out the first 2 games of 12 here. So they've got time to bring it back. If any team can just take that, hit the gas, and just go for the full momentum swing, it is Repulse's team, as Bansist and District right now have lost Gussos here. District takes down Jarlins. This is interesting right now. This is a battle for who can get the extra loot here over at the Fort Crumpet. This is a battle right now for 2 teams that want to have this on their loot path. Zora's going to try and get here and finish off Bansist. It's a 2v1 situation right now. I believe Bansist is the only one left for this team. Squeaks and Zora are going to try and work their way in, and Bansist is a fantastic player, but you're going to have to be exceptional, more than fantastic. As I say that, though, Bansist going for a little bit of the build. The Edit's getting some good damage out, but I don't know if it's going to be enough, as no, Squeaks and Zora stop trying to go for the box fight. They just get all in there. And as I was going to say, this is a team that's dropping on the outskirts over here. They're going to try and get that, the Fort Crumpet. They're going to try and get the John Wick House. They're going to try and get that Slurp Truck. But Jarlin, Squeaks, and Zora being a bit greedy here. They have all of Sweaty Sands themselves. They say, hey, that's not enough. We also want your Fort Crumpet too. They fight for it, but they do win it.
Yeah, definitely one. That's going to be a big fight. Here's Box, though. We saw them playing that information play on the outskirts up against Team MG here. And now Infusion, Yix, and Rainy, they want to start pushing up. And if they do it quickly, they'll be able to capitalize. Yes, Box is by himself. His team's too far. They understand this. I think they know. And yep, they're starting to pursue on in. This might be doom here and disaster for Box.
Yeah, this could be a disaster right now as HVT, they did not get their Storm Surge last game. We asked what went wrong. I put it out there. I said that everything must have gone wrong. Right now, they're trying to fight. They're trying to get some damage, but they're running scared out of Stealthy Stronghold. And we don't usually see these early game engagements here as Esches gets taken out in the feed. They didn't connect into game 1. They were the other team that didn't make it in alongside Repulse. And now here in game 2, unfortunately, Esches goes down early. Don't know if his team still got things under control. As Zans, Raikou, and Oreo, team that I have very high hopes for here to maybe create an upset. Don't know if I want to put them as a top 3, top 5, but I hope they have a big performance, as I know they have the potential. And here we get to see it. Tekmar's team that I believe is dropping caddy corners has either made an early rotate over here to Retail or has decided to contest Retail on Esches, Will, and Ronan. They take down Esches, but they're too scared to take the 3v2 against Ronan and Will. And I know it's a 3v2, but that is a very scary team.
Yeah, we're noticing a lot of teams put respect on other trios, right? It could just be grand finals nerves. It could just be how much is riding on the line here. Or like you said, respect to the trio. You got to be careful. Like, even a duo can do some massive damage. It only takes one wrong play from a trio here to get iced out and then boxed out in these games. Brezzo, on the other hand, trying to play nice and smart. Salty Towers, high ground, right? Once you start refarming all this, all you need is someone like Culture on the lookout to put those tags down. Here's Me Sport. Can he find some freebies? Nope. Those crystals move a little too quick for him. Doesn't take the shot, not just yet.
And this is one of those teams we saw actually change up their team here in FNCS. They were playing originally with Bridge as well. They decided to drop Bridge, so Culture and Brezzo trying to have some big performances here. They proved they can qualify despite having that switch up in the team. So I want to see if they can pull it off together here. We see Puma, the team we're wondering about how, like, where they came from last game. Monster dominated the high ground, had it fully under control. And I don't think they're doing it out of Sweaty, because last game I saw Sweaty very much uncontested, but I like how opportunistic this team is. They're dropping into Sweaty. They're moving their way in because of that early engagement from Squeaks and Zora's team, which didn't happen last game. I like the way they're playing. They're playing very reactive.
Puma's team is actually landing on the outskirts, like Rainbow Rentals, right off the edge, John Wick House. They're playing off of all that kind of shambles loot. That's why we saw them lurking around the fight up north at the Fort Crumpet with Zora, Squeaks, and Jolander. But back to the Stealthy Stronghold skirmish, standoff, right, between the two trios.
Yeah.
If you were HVT, Box and Peaks, and you didn't get Storm Surge last round, they should have just took advantage of the early game before the other trio got super situated and comfortable. This is probably the same exact thing that happened in game one. I have to assume that they didn't change up the style too much because it's taken a long time now. Storm is starting to trickle in. It's coming closer and closer.
I said it's those teams that are going to be feeling the water. They're dipping their toes in. They don't want to dive in, but sometimes on the big stage, you've really got to step up. You can't be playing this scared because you're just putting off the fight for a later day. We saw what happened last time. No fight is worse than trying to take a Storm fight for Storm Surge while rotating into teams that are situated. If you're going to take a fight, you might as well do it now, as it looks like it's going to be Yix's team that's opening up this fight instead. It doesn't look like it's going to be a HVT team taking the engagement. I'm guessing it came off the back of a snipe or a solid beam, because Team MG is looking real healthy. Peaks Guard looking real rough on the low ground. 2 builds, no spare meds, and has been tagged up as Box has to do the brunt of the damage here. Gets the piece control, gets the edit, but unfortunately gets out damaged as HVT jumping in right now as a last-ditch effort. This team struggled for their surge game one. I think they're going to be struggling here in game two, as I can't see them getting out of this too healthy. As I say that, though, Rainy is now brought down to, I believe, a 1v2. So never mind, this might actually work for them, but Rainy had the loadout, has that big tack shotgun, puts it to use, has the splashes, has the minis, a 1v1, and I have to imagine that Rainy has the loot advantage here over HVT. As we can see, it's a green AK, green tactical shotgun, but that big legendary tack monster, it always swings fights.
And that's what's carrying him right now, is that legendary tactical shotgun. It does some serious damage to builds. We all know it. On the top side, you see a little glimpse of what's going on with Speedy as we're hopping over to another engagement here, swinging around the top. On the bottom side, you see Trixie and Faulty just trying to get it on as well. Rainy, though, is going to hold out the Stormline because he has all the bandage advantage. He's got the Chug Splash as well for the quick heals. HVT on the other side tries to make a dash for the reboot van to see if he can bait him out, and it might just work, but again, lost at the HP here. He does not have the lead, and this should be a quick pop him off here from Rain right now.
And I think I like that there. Rainy actually popping the Chug Splash is showing, hey, I got the health advantage. We're not going to make this a Storm fight, as HVT takes down Rainy. The green tag comes out over the big tag, had every disadvantage, had nothing going for them, and HVT backs it up. And that is a team that on social media especially has been going backwards and forwards about who owns the drop, who's dropping where. They've had a lot of beef, and you know HVT is going to be hitting the DMs after that one. He just bullied him.
Listen, no love lost, but it's finals, baby. That's what I'm talking about right there. Those big fights, the ones that you never expect someone to clutch up and win, and then they do. Oh, man, that's got to feel so good for him being in that position. And let's not forget, they basically pulled zone, so I think they have a realistic chance of bouncing back, getting the saves off. We already know he had those reboot cards. What a spot to put yourself in now.
Yeah, Stealthy Stronghold as well. I didn't see any of the players really carrying any fish. Maybe didn't have time to fish it up. So get those players up, grab those fishing rods. There's usually about 10 fishing holes inside Stealthy Stronghold. They've also got Flopper Island to the north. They have a really good potential to play this game out if they play it smart. They have more than enough Storm Surge damage to at least make it through the first threshold. Spend that time, fish up. You've got a very clear side of zone now. I'd like to see the position they're in, as I also like we're seeing here Fresh's team making that early rotate, looking fantastic. Team DJ on Only 4 points on the board last game, but 105 below. They need to make something happen. There's a lot of teams around them. But as I say that, though, DLS, we see HVT go down. They don't get the reboot monster. Unfortunately, all that loot is going to swing over in the hands of, I believe, that is Mania's team that just rolled up.
Oh, man, what a heartbreak right there. But hey, it's a better game than they had in the previous run. At least they weren't struggling for Surge this time around. So, hit the drawing board, plenty of more Fortnite rounds in front of them. Talking about that Surge that was such an issue for HVT's trios last game, Jinx, Alec, and Worthy, a team that we didn't quite expect to be this low, especially this deep into the zone right now. They are surrounded by players, but don't have a tag to their name.
Don't have a tag to their name, and that's going to be a big issue for them going forward. We talk about Storm Surge so much because, as you saw last game, it plays a huge factor in who goes down, who stays up, and as you see, Worthy take down Jace here. So Jace, Vortex, and Basil had a lot of issues last game. It looks like it was maybe on the back of a headshot snipe, so I think they might get the revive off here, as Mania is still going to be holding Peaks Guard here and Box as well. So Stealthy Stronghold's got a lot of early action at it.
A lot of fights going on here, and what a perfect spot to hold him out. The zone this is a rare one where it just favors the north side, so it's very rare that you don't really even have to move. Peaks Guard, though, is up. Box is up, too, so, I mean, hey, HVT did his job. He may have sacrificed himself for it, but 2 is better than 1 in this instance, and DLS is going to end up backing out here, making the rotate, playing for the new zone. You don't want to be back here for too long. 56 damage above for them. They are going to have to get active, and this is why it's a good idea to start moving.
One flopper right now. I'm not really liking Mania Trexie's loadout here. I noticed they handed Trexie the legendary tac shotgun, the firepower of the team, but because they only came through and cleaned up that one player, they're only 55 above, as we now see the DJ's team only 41 above. 13 players have to go down now, and this is not going to stop until that happens. Reckless, our reboot round winners, taking down Spraz in the feed, as Rivley, Apolox, and Clean are our next team that is going to be box fighting for their Surge. 104 below. They're trying to get active, and this is a tough situation.
They're trying to take it against first place team of Oakley there. They're on the other side of the wall. So Prizzy, you saw him holding down the defense there. I do wonder how it's going to play out. Clean's going to get taken out. Apolok's already out. Rivley's left by himself. That means the first place teams, the champs in the lead right now, have managed to successfully defend themselves off.
That's what you got to have, right? You're in first place. You've proven you can do it in the end game, but you got to win those mid-game fights. You've got to not let the nerves sink in, and I love to see them take that mid-game fight or have it taken on them, I guess, by the team trying to get active for Surge and still manage to come out on top and win that. And when you win those engagements, as brutal as it is, if a team's up against your wall with active Surge, yeah, they can cause issues, but sometimes, more often than not, actually, it's 6 free points when you take down the whole team, as Lazy, Bluesy, and Reckless have 4 eliminations on the board, 1,200 above. Remember, this is our reboot round winning team having big showing here in game number 2.
Yeah, that's where we want to see them. That's where we expect to see them.
No.
Oh no, our favorites though, Jace, Vortex, and Basil. The Surge is in, and it seems like someone's under some serious pressure. Wait, HVT got picked up again. So this time, HVT gets saved by Peaks Guard, and now it forces into a fight, and Peaks Guard is going to get a siphon there. You can see his HP kind of jump up, and oh, the misses from Basil though. Will he regret it? We've already seen this team clutch the funds, and it looks like they might do it again here. Aussie, I mean, are they just the clutch masters?
I mean, they're fantastic fighters. It's why they play that mid and low ground so well. It's why we've been talking about them. But man, Peaks Guard, HVT's team's been through the wars. I saw HVT get taken out. We assumed that meant they didn't get the reboot. He got the reboot, then he got taken out, and they've got them back up. So I have no idea how this is going. They have 4 eliminations on the board. HVT's got those bandies in Storm. Playing spoiler here. Basil and Vortex did huge things last game when Jace went down early, managed to clutch up a top 3. I don't know whether they're going to be able to do it again here because, man, what a ridiculous performance as we saw Ashes go down early in retail. Ronan and Will have got that reboot off, but man, they're looking worse for wear as well. Everything is breaking down on this north to northeast side.
You know what? I just want to say, though, for HVT, the elims alone, 8 points, have put them in top 15. That just shows you how staggered the point system is, right? And when it comes down to final stage, every single one matters at all. He was so close to stealing away a little bit more. But you know what, HVT? I'll tip the hat to that one. Almost 10-point game is pretty massive considering the uphill battle that they fought through. GG's.
I mean, they went down swinging, and you have to respect that. But man, I am seriously feeling for Basil, Vortex, and Jace right now. Is game one, I don't think they had too much control over it. They got held by a team right near the edge of zone. They got followed all the way in for the Storm Surge. Now they're on the backside again with Mania's team now trying to get some damage in here. But as I say that, Basil fights back. But again, that's twice now they've gone down to teams desperate for Surge, as Sora, Volks, and Sync right now get into a very aggressive fight. There's no one you'd rather have in your box when you have to win these fights than Volks. I would put him up there as one of the best, not in OCE, but best in the world when it comes to these intense box fights. His mechanics are honestly unrivaled. He is so ridiculous to watch in those situations. They managed to come out with 2 eliminations, plenty of spare shield to recoup after that big fight, and it's against Raiku's team, which I was talking earlier about Oreo being another fantastic fighter in the region, Zans as well, but unfortunately they fall to Volks, and now it's just Raiku's trying to do something for his team, and man, everyone's getting active now, Monster. We're down to 57 players, 21 teams, and everyone is, showing why OCE is OCE.
Yeah, OCE is OCE. These fights are definitely representative of the region. It's popping off now. Game 2, all of a sudden, things are really stepping up here. I can feel the heat in the room. I can feel the sweat building on my forehead. I mean, it's going down right now. Yeah, we got the action, and it's not stopping. Taking a look at Neth and Kryptono with no points here. That's a team that had a rough game 1. These game 2s are going to mean a lot as Jinx wipes up the full. Will, Ronan, and Eshiz almost single-handedly there. So that's a trio. Gone, wiped out of the competition, and now another big engagement here. Reckless, Bluesy, and Lazy up against, what's that? Zora on the other side, and Jalen there.
Zora, Jalen, Squeaks right now, and this is crazy. We talked about it. We said how in OCE, it's crazy that you can have players who, qualify in last place in the first trio FNCS, manage to win the entire thing. We now have Lazy, Reckless, and Bluesy, our reboot round victory team on 6 eliminations, 1,200 above. Absolute god loadout here in game number 2, trying to do big things, and they're now putting damage down onto some of our favorites as Alec goes down in the feed. That is CLA, our hard worker, going down to Cypher. That is very scary for our FNCS champions, as Muzz and Looter are playing without Speedy. It looks like they're down to a duo as well.
Yeah, rough for Muzz and Looter, who needs to, again, continue to just stay on pace, is a favorite right here. This is a caster's pick. We've had him up there round after round, right? All the way through the qualifiers. Obviously now in the grand finals, we're expecting big things from them. What a phenomenal game 1, a 51-point way to kick things off. I mean, that's where you want to be. You don't want to lose this strong start that you've already started yourself with. That's that team right there, though. On the other side, Squeaks, who gets RPG'd all the way down low with Zora and Jalen. Right now, they're at the mercy of high ground, and Zone doesn't pull their way.
Active Surge. And man, if they got it, if Reckless team managed to pull that off, that would be huge with that RPG above Surge on half high ground. Now they have to show, were they the one-game wonders? Were they the reboot winners? Or are they an actual team that can compete here on the day in the finals? We get a little bit of a misplay on the bounce, as I say that, a little bit of nerves, but in these lobbies, we do know that things get a lot more hectic, things get a lot more chaotic as they try to make their way in here, as Looter and Muzz are trying to do it as a duo. I mean, they still got the firepower, and they're going to be moving into Me Sport. I say the firepower, this team has got Surge against them. Looter's going to get in, going to take down Me Sport. That's one of our top 4 placing teams in their heat. They did it out of one of the easier heats. Had a lot of people saying that they probably shouldn't be here. They need to back it up here and see if they can take down Looter as Reckless gets more and more damage onto this lobby, and they're making a fantastic rotate around the edge here, Monster. This is our reboot round team really showing up here on the day.
Yeah, Looter's now solo, though. Reckless picks off Muzz there, and that's a major pickup. And again, 14 points. They're really making up for lost time here. This is the comeback game for Reckless, Lazy, and Bluesy. And honestly, the loot is looking really good. They virtually get a free rotate right there, swinging around the outskirts, using all those enemy builds. On high ground, though, Tekmar trying to wrestle his way on up. It's not going to be looking too good for him, as Reckless here does have that RPG. They've been using it up until now as well. I like that they don't wait to the last seconds. They use it, and they don't lose it, right? They put that thing to work.
I mean, the way they won their reboot round was with that absolutely ridiculous heal off at the end. Me and Monster didn't even get to see it at the time. It was all going down. It was all crazy. Ended up being won by one of the most clutch big chill snowballs I've ever seen to interrupt the med kit on high ground. Just insanity. So it's interesting you mentioned that, Monster. The way they use their utility, the way they use RPGs, big chills, those power weapons really is the story of how they made it here today. So seeing them with that RPG in the back pocket that they don't normally get, they don't normally drop at the Hydro Dam is going to be interesting as we have Xenox and Sayo on the high ground. Bathan's team trying to see if they have their big game. But Prizzy, Oatly, and Raptor, our first place team, 5 eliminations on Prizzy right now. So he is absolutely popping off. I asked it of them. I said, look, you guys had a ridiculous game. They had a 17 elim win in the last game of Heat 2 to qualify to this point today. And now they're doing it big here in game number 2, proving I honestly don't think it's a fluke, Monster. They're looking fantastic.
Listen, at this point, it might be a runaway train, and I don't know if they have brakes to slow down at the finish line because it looks like they're on one right here. If we see a team break away too far, I mean, it's been done before. 2-day formats with a big enough lead, they might just be able to cruise their way through those final days. And I want this to be a close competition, but teams like Looter, right? If they start losing that lead and letting this first place squad break away, it's only going to be tougher and tougher. Looter, even as a solo, though, you can see he positions himself and he does it well. That's going to be a 1 pickup. Very nice for him.
Yeah, he's not playing as passive as what you'd imagine. Unfortunately, it comes back to bite him here as Reckless, Lazy, and Bluesy still making their way through. Keep an eye on that feed. So we got big names going down here. We have Squeaks going down, Luda going down now. Krypton's out of this. Sorif, who I saw get knocked earlier, who I thought was capitalized on, wasn't. Krypton, Aspect of Fallen, Brizzo, Luna, Culture. The big names are here. They're out to play, and it's going through those mid and low grounds. Who's picking up all the eliminations? Because remember, this format is insane. 2 points for every elimination, and over half the placement points go for top 3 teams. We have 11 teams left, so it's going to be who can make that top 3. There is no point getting top 10, top 5 teams consistently. It is literally going to be a battle for top 3 with big eliminations. That's exactly what Reckless is set up to do. That's exactly what Oatly, Raptor, and Prizzy are doing on the front side of zone. Our first place team, like you said, Monster, they're running away with it. 5 eliminations with 1 knock. That would make 6 eliminations for Prizzy. They alpha up the high ground with a bounce pad. Prizzy is literally just him against the world, dominating here as Fresh on low ground has the tack in the back pocket. I think that was a knock. They're going to get the siphon, but Fresh is trying to carry that team as Reckless looks fantastic. We might see a 3v3 at the end game between this team and Prizzy, Monster. I have to think that's the way it's going to go as we have the firing squad just unleashing on this lobby.
And not only that, there's just so much for them to work with as well. The entire low ground looks so hurt. And once they come down, it's going to be wraps for those players down here. Players like Fresh right now, back against the wall, nothing to work with, no builds, just a prayer and a dream. What can you do? Run in between enemy builds. Fresh, you're amazing at this game. We all know it, but listen, it's looking very, very close here. Dire, if you will. And yes, he does. He finally falls on high ground now, man. Prizzy, at this point, just take a deep breath, man. You got this.
6 eliminations right now. I mean, you love kill checking your friends. You love doing those ones in the arena games right now. But 6 eliminations, 0 on each of the teammates doing phenomenal things. We have full trio still down here, though. But as you're seeing, a lot of them are being wounded. As no Lazy and Bluesy go down, Reckless has 7 eliminations. So he's been absolutely fragging out for his team as well. Prizzy obviously getting a run for his money, but Reckless is a solo now. There's no way he's going to be able to keep doing this and pushing through as a solo. Your reboot round player, the one who has the most to prove here, gets the wall onto DJ, doesn't get the builds through, uses the RPG to break it up. DJ's trying to stay away from Reckless, goes down. I don't think it's at the hands of Reckless. No, it is at the hands of Prizzy, who is looking to try and set double-digit eliminations by himself here, Monster. 2 teams left. It is a trio v trio. We see it again. We see Sync, Sorif, and Volks. Prizzy's been here before. They did it last game. They managed to pull out the win. Can they go back-to-back wins in the first 2 games of OCE FNCS finals? If any team can do it, it is going to be Raptor and Oatly right now. They've lost the firepower. Prizzy has gone down. They're going up against Sorif and Volks, but Sorif and Volks are wounded. Sorif right now is not looking great at all. Volks is going to have one of the best plays he's ever done in his life. One of the best fighters in the world, hands down, but he's got a blue tack, an epic pistol. Sorif is on the back foot right now, Monster. I don't know if they're going to be able to pull this off, but Raptor and Oatly, they've lost Prizzy. They're playing this slow. They're playing 1 level up. Oatly goes for the med kit. I think he got it off. No. Never mind. They're going to have to fight, but I don't think the fight's going to matter. Volks is trying to fight this one. Raptor in the 1v2. Volks is going to be able to get that siphon. He does. He gets the extra 50 health, but no, they're deep in Storm. Oatly went for the heal off early. They can't find him. We are going to see a back-to-back victory royale. Triple-digit point start from this team. They have just had 2 back-to-back wins with over 10 eliminations. Prizzy getting 9 of them. Monster, we talked about how Timmy said it. If any of those 3 teams we talked about as our picks aren't in the top 3 or winning it, it would be a huge upset. We have Prizzy, Oatly right now just showing up and just, I don't even know anymore. What is that first 2 games?
Dynamite, right? Just a lit fuse, and it's explosive. They popped off. And how do you do that back-to-back on the biggest stage? I don't know.
I mean, and again, they heard me, man. I'm talking about, can they do it? The consistency. They showed they could have one really big game in their qualifying week in their heat, but no, they've just done it twice. This is a 12-game format, and we're seeing it, Monster. You said you don't want to run away. It does kind of, make the perspective a little bit less interesting, but what a performance. You have to celebrate it. I want to hear what the analysts think. I want to hear what Timmy thinks, because I know that he had eyes on this team, but man, you can have eyes on a team, and then there's this kind of a performance.
Thank you so much, Ozzy. Exactly as you said. I mean, even though this team did not feature on our predictions, they are definitely one to watch. Timmy, of course, you've been a big fan of them for a while. Same for you, Fallout. But let's focus on, I guess, the origin story, because they've done well overall during this tournament. But why are they a team to watch, and how did they get hyped back-to-back, Fallout?
Yeah, honestly, they've earned it the good old-fashioned way. Game number 1 against Mr. Tassi. Mr. Tassi and co. had high ground pretty much on lock, guaranteed, and they had to actually steal high ground. We didn't see it on broadcast or on stream, but we know that they were able to take high ground from them. Game 2, they do it again against the same another squad that had high ground over them. I can't remember. I'm blanking right now who it was. It was Sora from them, right? I think.
I can't
Timmy?
remember, sorry.
Yeah, I'm blanking as well here. But no, 2 games in a row they had to earn high ground. 2 games in a row they do it. You can't just say it's a good drop spot. Obviously, it is dropping Slurpy Swamps. They're leaving very well shielded and with great loot, but they are earning it the old-fashioned way. They are performing way better than any other team, bar none, this tournament right now, Timmy.
Yeah, and it's all about consistency, as we've said. They have to continue putting these games together. We don't necessarily have to see them go back to back to back, although that would be incredible. But the kind of consistency we're looking for is now for them to just keep stringing these decent games together, and that's what's going to win them the tournament. What I'm expecting from them is for the thing that's making the difference here so far has been the confidence. The fact that they're happy to take mid-game fights if they have the advantage, and the fact that they're happy to take height. Look at what Prizzy does here. Always looking at it, and then so it was CO and Bathan, they take it off, and he bounces up, takes height, and then finishes the game off with no worries whatsoever. Once you have height in that second moving, third moving stage, there's no taking it back. So they had it, and that late first moving, that's when they were looking for it. And when you have it at that stage, man, it's game over.
I think it just goes to show, as you said, the consistency coming in. I don't know, does it feel like they've got a battle plan, would you say, Timmy? Like, does it feel as though they've, worked the last few weeks, really put in the hours?
Oh, extremely, yeah. Well, we know it's almost like a meme in the OCE community. Oatley's one of the hardest workers we have, and to see him succeed like this is it's awesome to see. Not only that, but, the work that you've got to put in to sort your surge plans, to sort, that sort of stuff. We're going to see them at the top of the standings here, and with good, they've worked for it. It's awesome to see.
As you kind of alluded, we do have the standings ready, and of course, it's no surprise to us, Fallout, but there they are.
Yeah, insane. 2 Victory Royales, 46 points in eliminations, absolutely going off. That's 23 eliminations that they've already gotten as a team. 12 the first game, 11 the second game, and they have a significant lead over everyone else. Sorf, Volks, and Sync, of course, in second with some very, very good consistency. Muzz, Looter, and Speedy, not necessarily the best game number 2, but their game 1 performance will keep them there. Pumpkin, Cyper, and Suns, another team that we definitely have to keep your eye out for. And then, of course, in 5th place, same exact squad, Mr. Tassi, Giovanno, and Puma. They are playing consistent. They're my dark horse for this tournament, Timmy, and so far they're looking very good as we take a look at the second page of standings.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm interested to see where our other top team is. I wonder where Wavy, Alec, and the rest of that squad is. But as we round out the top 10 here, Fresh, Rel, and Nubertoon coming in at 6. Basil, Jason, Vortex not having as great a game, struggling to manage their surge, which you don't usually see from a tier 1 team. So that makes me a little bit worried about them there. Bluesy, Lazy, and Reckless, our reboot round team, we saw them popping off. I think they had 9 or 10 elims by the time that game finished there. So see them in that is awesome. And then again, another nice consistent game there. Again, I talk about consistency all the time because it's really important. Rezo, Culture, and Luna, 10 elims between them. It's gonna look to see that come up in a game or 2 here, and then 32 points, and then rounding out our top 10. They're the guys who had height and who lost it to Prizzy, and I said that confidence is really important. Bathan, Zedox, and CO, the confidence that Prizzy, Oatley, and Raptor had to take height off those guys is what made all the difference there, Fallout.
Yeah, that's right. Now we take a look at 11th through 15th place. And the one team that really stands out to me the most is NeoFab and Chemo. I want to talk about them and their early aggression dropping on Kripa, BMP, and Rip over in Pleasant Park. They're trying to condition that area and trying to say, look, Pleasant Park is ours. They're sorting their Storm Surge out. But we did see that both of these teams, will, in my eyes, will continue to linger in like the 10th through 20th placements, because you're splitting that contest means you're probably going to win 50% of your games. You're not going to be able to place top 5 if you continue to fight off of the drop. So I'm interested to see what happens there as we take a look at our last and final page in our 16th through 20th teams.
Yeah, and just having a look there at 15th. So, of course, we see the rest of these guys, as you mentioned, Kripa, Rip, and BMP, Vujicic, Mania, Trexie, and one of the veteran teams, a bit of a wild card because they don't really practice that often, but Zora, Jalen, and Squix. I'm going to wonder if we see them take a game or two. But finishing out the top 20 here, Mavericks, Matthew, and Elusive, and then Dan, Thesaurus, and Skits. But to return to one of those points that you're talking about, that 15th place there, Spraz's team, they were in amongst that cluster that was coming right from south, and they got caught up in all of that. And we saw those teams not do very well, and that is a symptom of not being proactive. I'm going to use that word a lot because we're seeing a lot of zones that pull extremes, far left, far right, bottom right, top right. If you're getting zones like that, you need to be proactive. You need to sort your surge. You need to start your rotations early. So we didn't see them rotate early. They got taken out. We didn't see Muzz rotate early. They got taken out as well. So it's going to be interesting to see if we get another zone like that and if the results are the same there, Vandy.
Thank you so much, guys. Absolutely. We'll have to keep an eye on all of this. But just a quick stat I wanted to share with you guys before we throw to the casters for match number 3 was that Frizzy, Raptor, and Oatly are the first OCE team to open FNCS finals with back-to-back victory royales in history. So this broadcast, of course, that in itself kind of goes down in history. It's really, really cool to see. Whether they can keep up the steam, as you said, they don't need another victory royale, but they do need that consistency. Let's see how it plays out. I'm keen to see it. Aussie, Monster, I'm sure you guys are too.
Thank you so much, Vandy. Yes, we are incredibly excited to see it. I mean, normally with a 12-game format, sometimes, people can argue that because one team is so consistent, it makes them just, have this ridiculous, insurmountable lead going into day 2. But it doesn't often happen. It's very rare you see a team come out with back-to-back wins on day 1. We're going to have to see if they can somehow potentially do a hat-trick. We've set records here right now. We have a record-setting back-to-back win, but I was going to say I had word that I thought we had Repulse God's team finally in here as another team to shake things up at Misty Meadows, but I don't see them right now. But we do still have Oatly, Raptor, Prizzy uncontested at Slurpee Monster.
Yeah, definitely. Slurpee still such a powerful drop spot. We already know that too. Like it's a place where you land, you get all the kegs, and when you don't have anyone there, you also have the swamp to play off of too. People forget this is a drop spot that have plenty of fish, which not only that, these fishing hole spots pull out power loot as well, power shotgun. So again, the perfect storm to just get a dominant loadout. But they're playing out of their minds too, right? It's not just loadouts. It's about playing really well, and they're doing that. Here's that Pleasant Park fight, though. Here's, again, between two teams that have walked away each of their own, right? Once before for Rip's crew, once before for Chemo, and now they're in about the same boat. 15 points on one trio, 19 on the other.
Yeah, it's even. It's one apiece. Last game, though, going over to Chemo's team was that full 3v3 all drop on one house we saw. This is not going out the same way. People have had time to get their loot. They've got a couple shotguns. They've kind of got their things going. But now the fight breaks out. This is not a long, drawn-out fight by any means. These teams are keen to get in, and it looks like it might be going towards, I think, Kripa's team here, as Neo is the only player left now trying to hold things down for Chemo and Fab. Neo's going to go up, has the shotgun, has the AR, but doesn't have a huge loot advantage. And you have to imagine with 3 eliminations, I'm so confused right now. They already have 3 eliminations, but we still have a player left. So I don't know how they've picked up that 3rd elimination or where they've picked it up from, because this is now a 3v1. Neo is just hiding on the stairs. We saw this last week, Monster in NA East. Maybe if I don't move, maybe they won't see me. As Neo goes for the tricky play with the car. Jumps in, jumps out, gets the big shot, doing some serious damage. And honestly, the finesse was real, Monster.
Yeah, listen, it almost worked. He almost one-cracked Rip there and Kripa for a moment. Any one of those knocks right there would have been the game changer. That would have been the difference maker, because you pick up the scythe, you get the extra mass, and all of a sudden this is looking realistic. It's looking feasible. What's not looking too feasible is Rady's HP right now. Team MG on the backside, and again, being pinched. It looks like Box, Peaks, and HVT have found the better angles. HVT clutched up in the last game, clutched up in the last fight. really went the distance for his trio, and then, of course, falls, right? We saw that exchange on the rotate on out the edge of the zone. This is their problem, though. A contested draw spot, a drawn-out draw spot, too. It's not just like they're ending it quickly. That's their real issue.
Yeah, that is their real issue, and we've seen it time and time again. We looked at that Pleasant Park fight, right? It starts fight, it ends fast, and then right now a lot of them have good points. They have about 15 to 20 each. They've had decent performances outside of the games when they walk away. These two teams, even the team that wins, I'm doing that in obviously air quotations, you guys at home can't see it, they're winning the fight, but they're just drawing it out so long that they instantly go down to the next team that rotates out, and this is a team that needs to be careful because we have Jace, Vortex, and Basil over at Craggy who've had a really rough start to their tournament, who are going to like that free Storm Surge damage. They're probably going to mosey on over and see if they can get it again, because that fight is drawing out for so long. That is definitely what you and I would probably call, Monster, more of an emotional Storm fight.
Yeah, definitely. And this time the Storm is not favoring them. You didn't see the white line anywhere near them. So it's pulling south. It's pulling away from the stronghold. And it's not going to be a good time if they stick around much longer. Here, Javano, Puma, Tassie, we saw what they did game one, the high ground hold. Looks like they walked away with a pretty solid game two. Network, you know, again, top 3 position to be in right now in the tournament. Not too shabby. Second place last game with 12 eliminations there. No, wait, excuse me. Gotta hit the little refresher here. But again, solid spot to be in for them.
Very solid spot. Puma's inside the house here. Aplox, Clean, and Rivley, a team that I didn't have insanely high hopes for, but 0 points on the board here. You know, Killing hit that halfway mark on day number 1, and there it is. I said I'm surprised. They get elimination on the board. That's 2 points onto Mr. Tazzy's team. And if you've just tuned in, you don't know why we're talking about this with the 12 days. This is day 1, 12 games. There's going to be 6 games today, 6 games tomorrow. At the end, we are going to crown our FNCS champion. So right now, we have Raptor, Prizzy, and Oatly surging ahead on 106 points, back-to-back victory hours, as Vandy touched on, a record-breaking first time we've ever seen back-to-back victory hours here at OCE, but it's 12 games. Anything can happen. Like we talked about, Repulse's team, a big name that's been having some issues. They're going to be playing the rest of this, as I just don't know what these teams are doing, Monster.
OCE, they're doing OCE things.
They are doing OCE things. Yep, this is living up to the reputation. A very interesting, very emotional Storm fight from both these teams who, if either of them win it here, they're both still going to go down in the long run anyway. They're now up on the high ground, handing around medkits. It looks like we've set up the stage here. We got both teams on either side setting up for this big, long, drawn-out fight. 2 builds for Yixa, 1 medkit. I mean, this is the definition of shambles.
And not only that, Yixa doesn't have medium ammo to continue this long-range fight, which you need to find tags, especially if you're going to rotate and, you know, take it the distance here, if you will. Rainey's going to have to back out. Rainey doesn't have any HP. It's either fight for the Siphon or trade the Nox, I guess, right, and do the chain heal on out the door. HVT and company now pushing in here, finally breaking into those enemy builds. Again, none of this looks very good. None of this seems very favorable for any of the trios. This is a long rotate. We got the map shot now to back it up and add even more fuel to the fire here. Like, what do you do?
What do you do as we talk about the fire? They're going to have to utilize that campfire to even have any semblance of gaining health to get in as we tune in. And we've had Remy go down. We have Spraz and Pace outside of Storm here on that more southeastern section, as we've got a lot of eyes on this northern section. And when I say northern section, Stealthy Stronghold is far north. If you show me this map and I can't see this amount of players, I'm telling you this is not even an arena game. I'm telling you it's a pub with how far into Storm these teams are. And no, they have $90,000 US dollars on the line they're playing for, and this is how the two teams are going to play it out. Unfortunately, I don't like their chances, but if we do see Seldom, which is HVT right now, if his team can somehow capitalize on this, somehow get these eliminations, close out fast, as the fall damage comes out as well, but Seldom having the confidence to get in there and close this one out. They're going to hit the campfire, but they have the longest rotate ahead of them. As we now tune in, some of our teams doing a little bit better. Speedy's team on 53 points, Basil's team on 40. Names we've talked about. I wanted to mention, though, Monster, right now, we saw a fantastic performance from Raptors team in game 1 and 2 when they didn't get zoned. This is the first time we've seen them get zoned on Slurpee Swamps. I want to see how that plays into things. I want to see if maybe their Storm Surge routes are a little bit worse or a little bit more difficult when they get zoned, or are we going to see the full rounded out team who can make it work no matter the zone? Because in a 12-game format with 2 wins on the board, if they have another game here, I'm going to massively up my confidence on them to hold it.
Yeah, definitely. And listen, it's going west, so I think that's going to work for them, right? It's not like they have to cross a longer distance. People are going to start coming to them. The funnel is almost set up, so it's the perfect recipe here.
Very
As
true.
we watch Jedi Knight, another team storm fighting here. Deep as well. This is like he can easily move his way on in, but no, he's taking a fight, and this is up against Squeaks, right? We know the likes of Squeaks. We know what kind of power he brings to the fight and to the table. It's going to be a powerful exchange between both sides, but the trio, they're here.
Yeah, this is a fight again. I'm not really sure what's going on with these teams. I know Squeaks, Jarlin, and Zora obviously dropping here at Sweaty Sands. That's why they're here, but Squeaks is running off, and I don't actually see Jarlin or Zora. That might be why Squeaks takes that right-hand peek around the corner, trying to get the finish, but Jared's got eyes on it with the sniper. Squeaks is going to start popping those bandies. I don't think it's a med kit. It is bandies in the end in a 1v2, and this team's now lost a lot of confidence. They had full steam ahead, pushing in on Squeaks. Now they've realized, oh, we need to slow this down. We've already lost Toy Swag, which is a big, big blow to this team. I'm noticing 2 eliminations as well, Monster. So I think maybe Jedi Knight and Toy have managed to take out Jarlin and Zora, and it's just Squeaks who's left as Jared hits the quick, cheeky reboot to take this fight onto Squeaks. Squeaks doesn't know that Jedi Knight's above him, and Squeaks is going to have to do a massive, massive effort here to try and win this one. It's back to a 1v3.
Yeah, but listen, you left the player behind with no shield, so Jedi Knight, again, gets lucky that Squeaks didn't actually take the fight. It would have been favorable, but how do you know, right? Big 98 exchange, Squeaks goes down this time, but it could have been a lot worse. Either which way, does work out for their trio, so GG's. The show moves on. Here's Fresh, Nubaton, Vrel coming on in. They're doing good in the competition, still maintaining that top 10 spot they came in with after game number 1. 45 points, not too shabby for a draw spot. That they're, they have some players in the vicinity, but they have it to themselves.
I want to see the confidence here. I want to see Rel and Fresh and Nubatoon take this fight. They know the team above them's low. I'm guessing they've done their damage. They can see, but no, they get the shields off. Never mind. They don't want to show that confidence. I thought that team was a bit weaker than they were, so they got some good damage there. Hopefully they've got their Storm Surge, and man, that is a team that has all the pressure on them just because of Fresh's obviously insanely notable size. One of the most, if not the most known figures in OCE, still kicking it in competitive, made the grand finals last year, did not make the grand finals for the last trio, so really wants to perform here with Rel and Nubatoon, and I want to see how that team goes. 12 games to really put it all together and try and have that big performance as Jedi Knight's team winning that fight in Sweaty, not looking better off from it though. Jedi Knight really, really weak here. Toy Swag even weaker. I don't even know if they're going to make it out of Storm here. We've seen some deep ones, as we also see Seldom's team on the map there. Peakscar just trying to make it into Zone Monster after that stealthy fight.
Yeah, I was trying to see if we could still see the strong, HVT best player there, Peakscar, yup. They're still, I mean, they're middling in the Storm. On the other side, I don't know. HVT somehow in front of it, so they might survive, but there's two trios on the edge here. It's Raikou, Zans, and Oreo up north, already taking the fight on the trio coming out the zone. We just saw them in that vehicle rotate. It's looking rough in there. They're just getting picked off one at a time. And now Jedi Knight should be the last one that falls here. He's barely got anything to work with. All in, they have Storm Surge active too, so yeah, it's all over. This fight's going the distance no matter what.
They need that damage. That was unfortunate though. Zan's team knocked them, but because they went down so quickly in zone, they didn't even get that much Storm Surge. And yes, like I just saw, they're still 6 below. So even though they finish off those players, because they didn't get knocked, because they all went down so close, they didn't get the extra damage on the knocked bodies. And now they're on edge of zone with no real players around them, and they're below Surge. As we see Freshwell and Nubatoon almost 300 above, looking fantastic on a really good edge here in third zone. They are going to have to move more central for fourth, as you see a lot of teams held up here on the edge, so this next rotate is going to be everything for them.
Yeah, we were wondering if whether or not HVT best player was going to come out the zone. Looks like that was not the case. They make it to the new zone. They all get wiped out. Stealthy Stronghold fight does not go the distance. On this side, though, Muddy, Muzz, Speedy, and Looter here taking the whole fight. And looks like they are going to win this one quick and easy. And now they walk away with a refresher, which they need a little more. Look at Speedy's loot here. Like, the builds, they don't get the rewards that you would get from wiping a trio out.
Yeah, I think they only got the one elimination there. They get the loot, but Speedy does do most of the tarping, so I have to imagine he's gone through most of their material. Never mind, Muzz only has 27 builds, so never mind. This team needs a refresh. Hopefully they can manage to find it here. It's going to be a bit interesting, though. It's Weeping Woods. We got those massive, massive tree cover. It's really hard to get those long-range finishes, but they don't need to worry too much about that. They're 500 above. You touched on it perfectly there, Monster. They need the close-range finish. They need the finish where they can get the loot. They need what we would call the impact frag, the impact elimination, where you you get the elimination. You don't just get your 2 points, you get that big refresh. And with Aspect and Krypton above them, if they can kind of suss that team out, if they can try and find an angle in on them, that team is incredibly weak and hopefully holding on to a bit of material themselves.
Yep, that's the thing there. And, you know, what's left of the trio, we'll see what will happen there. On the other side, though, Prizzy, Raptor, Oatly, the first place team by a mile, almost doubling up on second already. They're just vibing out here at their drop spot, right? You have a team that has won 2 games. Yes, exactly. They don't even need to move. The zone is favoring on top of them. And listen, the drop that they claimed, right? They got the big main. Like, that is the most powerful drop that you can ask for, or I guess the building you can hold as we start approaching these last zones here.
Yeah, we talk about power positions up on top of main building with all the sidelines, all the hard match to refarm, to build out that base. They're looking fantastic. All it's going to take for them is to get a big 4th zone pull. They are on the very edge of 3rd, though, so statistically, you wouldn't expect them to get 4th into 5th, but I mean, if it's going to happen for them, you have to hope it is here, because that would massively increase their chances of getting the hat-trick wins here. It does pull across, it does pull opposite. Not too bad for them, though, as most of the teams around them are going to have to rotate. They just have to make sure they don't get caught in this, as Worthy, Alec, and Jinx, our reigning FNCS champions. Jinx trying to go for 4 FNCSs. They're struggling, Monster.
Yeah, they're having a really hard time. You know, we haven't necessarily seen the fights unfold. You know what I mean? They're losing battles, but we've definitely been paying close attention to that action feed. And every time, man, we watch Alec fall, we watching Jinx get knocked out, Worthy get knocked out. They really need to do something big. 11 points coming into 2 games. I mean, it's not terrible, right? But it's really not great by any means. To put it into perspective, 11 points, you know, they're shy of the top 20, so guys, don't feel like, you know, they're completely out of the race here. They're not by any means, but they are just not doing great.
And I mean, I talked about it as well, the last FNCS where we saw them pick it up. Jinx with the big snipe again onto Reckless, our reboot team that had a fantastic round last game. Big eliminations, made it right to the very, very end. Top 5 teams. Unfortunately, Reckless is going to get finished right away as well. That's a big elimination. That's the big momentum. And normally you talk about it, right? 12-game format, plenty of time to come back, but a lot of teams are going to work off momentum. They're going to start to get nervous when they fall behind. A team that I can almost guarantee will not be feeling the pressure, will not be nervous, is Jinx, Alec, and Worthy. They have all done it before. They won the last FNCS in OCE as a trio. They've stayed together. They know they can do it again. And I touched on it earlier. They did it last time without winning either of the days. Just insane consistency on both days. So they need to step up the pace here, though, if they want to do that, because they've shown that they don't have those huge pop-off games like we've seen from Prizzy. They're slow and steady, but that narrative has to change. They need to pick it up.
Yeah, that's what we want to see, though. We need more of that. Here's Zans, Raiko, and Oreo. They also have to bring that same caliber of prowess here. They are far behind. 11 points is not going to cut it. The pace that they're on is just not going to cut it. Not here, not for the FNCS stage. If you want to be up there with the Prizzies and the Oatlys of the lobby right now, you need to be doing big things. And that's making big waves, big elims, and taking Victory Royales home. Here's Tsui, Suns in Court, the RPG holders, right? The players that land at the Hydra Dam, the players that should have, again, bigger points and a bigger position in this tournament. Is that only 18 here? But they're fighting for the high ground, because there's a chance right now, the next 2 seconds, that they pull half in, half out. Let's see it here. The zone does come south, so it's not too bad. And that's going to land on, I'd say, the majority of the lobby.
It's going to fall on people like, I think, Jinx, Alec, and Worthy, who are looking good. It's not going to fall on Basil's team, and it's going to potentially fall just outside our first place team as Shocker, Midnight, and Tekmar go down here. Basil, Vortex, and Jace, 3 eliminations on the board. They need to have their big performance as well. They've been looking to jump up in the leaderboards. They've had a really clutch performance in game number 1. We had Vortex soloing his way to top 3, which is very, very impressive. As Oatly, our first place team, 2 wins on the board, trying to make it 3, are clearly not feeling the nerves. They're not feeling the pressure as they full send it in onto DJ's team. Chris, the only player left from that trio. They now have 2 eliminations on the board, 110 points. Man, Monster, we talked about it. OCE's first time on the official broadcast, and how sweet is it to highlight players like this who otherwise wouldn't be seen. Team Oatly absolutely popping off here on day 1.
Not only that, they picked up Cries right behind it. Half in, half out. Refresher is gorgeous, especially when you're in the lead. And now, again, it's smooth sailing. It's nothing to worry about. Pressure is off the shoulders as Jinx is eyeing high ground right now. He wants your jewels, Cork. He wants this high ground. He wants what you got. And hold up. One false move right here might just be the end of it. Okay, little defensive structure there. That might actually hold off Jinx from taking high ground.
It might hold off, but they've got eyes on it. They aren't feeling the pressure. Like I said, they want a big game. They don't want a decent game. They need to really step up here, and that's what they're trying to do. But unfortunately, they're doing it, like you said, Monster, on the team that has the RPG. It is that team on high ground, Tui's team that has the RPG in the back pocket, but I believe they have Suns down, so I hope Tui's still holding on to it, Monster. You'll have to refresh me. Did we see Tui have it? Because it's normally Suns that's holding it.
I did not see it, actually.
Ooh,
That's
that
why
could
I was
be
calling
interesting.
out. I was saying, like, this is the Hydra Dan team. Why don't
they don't have
that
it.
actual loot?
They give it
That's
to
what
Suns. I was
wondering.
just thinking that Suns is the one who usually has it. It's gone over to Osiris. Man, Obs team, thank you so much. We have the RPG in the hands of Osiris, Daneth, and Skits on 13 points. A team that really should be up there in that top 5 right now, looking to do big things, as obviously they managed to try and get, they obviously got elimination onto Suns, or they got the RPG in their hand either way. So it's a duo on height with no RPG, and they have our FNCS chance, Jinx, Alec, and Worthy lurking, trying to take it off them. It's looking scary for Cork and Tui up there.
Yeah, definitely. It's you got to be on high alert. You got to be on heightened alert here as Looter trying to find something big. He is going to find a little knock there. That's great for him. Speedy on the other side, leading out the tarp. We already know he's phenomenal in these kind of situations here. Just give him the builds and let him do his thing. He'll track us through that end game. As now, here's where the real Fortnite begins. Jinx is going to get knocked there. So no, Jinx actually gets fully taken out. We saw him lurking. We saw him trying to make a big play. It looks like that didn't work out.
Look like that didn't work out at all, as Tui and Cork are held up on what is a double single layer. It's a double reinforced single layer, but there it is. All it takes is for it to get broken out on the backside, and they will fall, as Alec and Worthy now have to do big things as a duo. As it's going to put down some pressure here onto the mid-ground layer, going to try and get those eliminations. We've seen big teams. We've had 2 games both go to Prizzy's team with over 10 eliminations. That is not normal. That is not the standard. All these teams right now are on a normal amount of eliminations coming into endgame, but this is where they need to start finding them, getting those 2 points per elim, because as we know, with the pace that Prizzy's team set right now, a win's not going to be it. You have to get a big win if you have any chance of jumping up and trying to contest them at the top.
And talk about the worst spot to be in. A great loadout, but 400 damage below. 10 players have to fall here in 30 seconds, and I don't know, the lobby's not moving fast enough, so you know the pressure is on. I saw Alex still in there making some big headlines. Here's Tui, though. High ground team not walking away with a bunch of elims, but they're still doing decent. Raptor being down here, so first place finally gets slowed down just outside of the top 10, but there's still another in this round. It's going the distance, so even with the first place team still up, though, they made it this far. These elims are carrying their weight all the way through to these final moments.
Yeah, and Tui and Cork get cut out again as Prizzy goes down here. It's just on the back of Oatly right now. Keep your eyes on the feed to see if our first place team goes down or whether they can hold on to this one and survive. Luda, Muzz, and Speedy, 73 points. They're up there. They've been in contention, trying to make their way through this lobby. They've now got the RPG. It's changed hands onto them as well. The big epic tack. This is everything Luda, Speed, and Muzz need, as right now Vortex goes down. Jason Basil around 60 points, trying to jump up. The one flopper. I don't think anyone has the med kit potentially. I don't know who has the heal off monster. I don't know who's going to be able to take this, as Escher's, Will, and Ronan going into this game on only about 10 points and now up to 18, trying to have a huge performance on the low ground as Sync, Volks, and Sorov take the high ground. My pick to win it all here today, 77 points, 2 eliminations on the board. Can they close it out? They came second earlier at the hands of Prizzy. Prizzy's out of this one. They want that first place.
Listen, someone's got to stop Oatly, though. Oatly is still alive here. He has managed to sneak his way into top 7, and he's still going, lurking away, stealing away points. Here's Will, the flopper, the final moments to stay up as well. He's fighting for his life now. Ronan somewhere out there. Take a look at Oatly, 4 elims, holding everything down for his trio right here. Still has plenty of builds. High ground is not going to be enough. That pressure is not going to be enough. Oatly wants to continue to steal away points here. Jace on the other side fighting it out down low. And he's shutting things down here. It's Jace versus Muzz. How's it going to play out?
And those are 2 big names in the mid-ground, but man, Oatly, he said, hey, Prizzy, man, you had 9 eliminations last game by yourself, but I am the placement king. I can do this as well. I can carry the team. I'm going to get the big placement points, which are worth even more, Monster. We've talked about this. Top 3, you get 6 points. If he can hold on, if he can survive one more team, I say survive. I think Oatly just took down Jace. He just got 2 more points, and he gets the top 6. No, he goes down in 4th. He goes down to Sorov. He just misses out on the 6 points for top 3. so close, but we now have 3 teams alive, 7 players. I believe it might be a trio solo as Sunswick is down there. Sink, Sorif, and Volks, they're working their way down. They smell it. The blood is in the water. They don't need to go for the heal off. They need these eliminations, as right now we have Pumpkin on the low ground. Sunswick and Cypher have gone down. Sorif is in zone. They win the game. Another team jumps up onto triple-digit points, 105. My pick to win it here on the weekend, and they're showing exactly why. But what a king performance from Oatly there. Seriously, I am so impressed with that trio right now.
That's what I was saying, right? Like, what was going on? You have to stop this guy. But listen, you know what? Second place team, Sorif, Volks, and Sink. Finally, someone's continuing to, get in the arena and put up the fight.
They put up the fight. They put up the good fight. It didn't go to the heel off. They jumped down. Everything broke apart. We'll have to get the analyst thoughts on this one as well, because I said it, Monster, you wanted a tight leaderboard. I think it's tightened up a lot, but we do have some big names at the top, and Volks' team is going to jump up there with them.
Thank you so much, Ozzy. I can see that you're smiling because your prediction has finally showed up for that Victory Royale. It was really good to see. But guys, of course, now we've kind of hit that halfway mark. Timmy, let's kind of start with you. What do we want to see kind of coming through from teams in this next portion of the day?
Well, I think you're going to want to see teams looking to take down Oatly, Raptor, and Prizzy late game. That's what it's going to come down to. They've had 3 really good games now, 2 wins, and then I think that was a 3rd place or a 4th place. Oatly, he got focused. I think they realized who he was. He got focused by Sorif, Sink, and Volks. But when you're picking up that many elims down the backside of zones, it's not going to mean anything, Vandy.
Yeah, absolutely right. But guys, don't go anywhere. We're going to jump to a quick break, and then we're going to be coming right up. Match number 4 will be coming right up. So as I said, don't go anywhere. We're just going to a quick break.
Oh,
Looks
well,
like I
listen,
lost my voice. I was just
mute button
welcoming
gets
you.
all of us, Vandy. Don't worry.
Yeah, don't worry. It looks like I had a little bit of that Little Mermaid moment, but I was just welcoming us all back from the break, and I'm glad that we made it in one piece, including my voice, thankfully, Fallout. But just before the break, of course, I was asking Timmy, with the halfway mark now behind us, what are you expecting to see from the rest of the games?
Yeah, for me, I'm looking for Jinx, Alec, and Worthy to wake up a little bit. It's not the best start for them first 3 games. They are the Jinx and Worthy, the only 2 players in all of Oceania that have placed top 5 in both former FNCS trio events. So I'm excited to see them wake up. I think they'll go big in game 4.
I think so. I mean, Monster's expecting them to do so. So why don't we go check in with our casters, because it sounds like match number 4 is ready to start soon.
Thank you so much, Vandy. Yes, match number 4 is about to be underway, or currently just underway here. We're going to have to see how the teams are stacking up, because we really do have 2 or 3 teams that have jumped up there, taken their lead, and really have taken the mantle of this. It's a 12-game format, though. Anything can happen. Like Fallout said, we're expecting big teams to show up, like Jinx, Alec, and Worthy. I'm looking at the map, and finally, we have Repulse God, Tyrax, and Forbes coming into play, Monster. That'll shake things up a lot.
Yeah, definitely. We're talking about a team that needs to play for height or get out the lobby, right? It's win all or lose all at this point. They are so far behind because of the rough start to the day, but they're not out of the competition, not by any means. If they could just continue to, again, wrangle themselves back into this round, pick some things up, they can definitely close the gap. Look at some of these teams we're looking at right now. These early draw spot fights, right? 21 points. Those are gaps you can definitely, surely close out. As we know, come on, it's Repost, it's Tyrax. These guys know what's up. Forbes is one of the best players out here.
Yeah, some of the best players out here, and we have big faces, though. I mean, same thing, though. Alex, Jinx, Worthy are looking to do a similar thing. They haven't got as big of a point disparity, but they're going to have to do big things right now as Rip's team trying to fight this one off. They're inside their house. This Pleasant fight has been so entertaining. Has that gone? Is that now 2-2? I'm trying to keep tabs here. Is that 2-2 now? I think it might be, as we have 25 points here for this team that's now walking away out of Pleasant. And man, I love the fact they're just going for the big fight, either win it or lose it and continue their games. It's not drawn out. They're not going slow. It's just someone walking in the door going full send.
Yeah, it's the difference between what they're doing and Stealthy Stronghold, who on the other side, again, is doing the extreme opposite, taking those long fights, and they're not getting any benefits from it, and they're still battling. Just looking at the map here, the map shot says the entire story. You can see it's a contestation up there. It's all battle back and forth, and so is it in Sweaty Sands. We have another trio, looks like rolling up on Zora and company over here. Jedi Knight, we already know Jedi Knight, Jared, and Toy are here to fight, and that last fight went the distance too.
Yeah, this is going to be really, really unfortunate for Squeaks, Jarl, and Zora if they lose here again, because the team with a lot of hope on them as well. We have, like we talked about, Jarl and Zora, 2 players who've dominated not just OCE FNCS, but NA East FNCS when they made it over there for their boot camp, popped off there, and unfortunately, they've kind of found their match here right now as Jared gets his peak. I believe this is actually Talon who's changed his name. He gets that peak around the corner. Me Sports team rolls in and takes down Zora from behind, I believe. So now we've got a 2v3 with Me Sports team rolling up on 4 points. They're trying to change up their game plan, and I think they need to.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. We saw that team lurking on in, sliding on in, and this is it. It's a different strategy. They're moving outside of the zone this time around to get some fights going, and it's the perfect place to do it, right? A team that's being contested, or a team that's choosing, I should say, to take the contest here at the draw spot, because we all know Sweaty Sands is honestly big enough for everyone, right? And there's plenty of loot outside of it.
Yeah, it's got a lot of loot, but at the same time right now, we see Jedi Knight trying to make it off in the distance. I don't know if he has any meds left from that loot, as Soul gets the last couple of shots that he needs to get to capitalize that one. You got to hit shots when it counts, and they do just that. V-Sport goes in for the finish, and I don't think they're going to keep pushing any further north. I think they're happy with their limbs, their surge, their loot, and maybe they're going to start heading towards zone.
I like how Jedi was down there, but he still kept swimming. You know, he didn't give up. He took it all the way to the final moments. Here's Team MG, the Stealthy Stronghold fight. Let's see what HVT best player Peaks Guard and company can do. Did they learn their lesson from the previous rounds? As the leaderboard's catching up here.
Oh, no.
Teams that are in top 5 are there, but a team that's in dead last is Tyrax, Repost, and Forbes. We already know they've been struggling today. They have to push every team, but they also have to win every fight.
Yeah, they've had some tech issues keeping them out of here. This is the first time we've actually seen them, and man, they really are going big or go home. I feel like teams say that, like, we're going to full send every game, we're going to be playing super aggressive. Repulse took to social media to say that he's going to be hyped of all remaining 9 games, and man, they don't care about getting hyped. They want to get their damage out early, and I feel so bad for Arrest, a team down here at Camp Cod that's already such a hard drop to play. You'll notice as well, if you look at EU and NAEs right now setting up for their finals tomorrow, not a single team on either of those regions even wants to drop at Camp Cod because it's so hard to play out of, and now you have arguably the best fighting team in the region chasing you down on spawn. It can't get much worse, as this team had 38 points on the board. They were doing decently, Monster.
That's what I was going to say. They were a top 10 coming into this. And I mean, hey, they still are a top 10 as Lucas manages to somehow sneak out of there, escape from the grips of Repost and company. And hey, man, at least he's alive. At least he's in the game. But his duos, like being able to pick up his teammates, that's not happening.
And the Midnight getting a fantastic loadout here. We've seen this retail road fight going down. Ronan, Eshes, and Will are going to be on the receiving end again. And I think this is the second time we've now seen Tecmar's team get the early elimination to break open this fight, not push the fight, and then struggle into the end game. I don't think this team has got a single placement point on the board here coming into game number 4. So it's not about these early game fights. They've got to figure out what the rest of their game is looking like.
Yeah, for sure. Being a man down too, though. They are constantly being a man down here in the retail road draw spot. So it is pretty tough. But again, we forgot to mention, guys, this is the halfway mark of the competition. If you're having a hard time up until now, this is the make or break time where you really start to, figure out the new pacing, right? Change up your strategy, do something new. This is one of those rare circumstances where you will have 2 days of competition. You can literally pivot your gameplay now and then come in tomorrow and figure things out, right? Fix up the strats. Like, it's not all over because you're being contested. You can do something different in these games.
Yeah, it's very true. You can show up. It takes a really, really good team, though, really good mental strength to have a really rough day 1 and then show up big on day 2. It very rarely happens, but if it does happen in any region, it's OCE. Repulse God's team did it last season, winning 3 of the 6 games on day 2 after having a pretty struggling day 1. So even they can maybe do it again here. But you can hit the VODs, you can figure out what's going on. You can really try to kind of refresh and see what's happening. But for teams like Prizzy, I mean, I'm thinking they must be hoping for a 6-game format. But with this insane of a performance, they really can look to put some point records on the board right now. 132 points here in 3 games. Even their last game was a 6-elim 4th Monster, as we do see Talon take down MeSport, hits the dance on them. But right now, after 3 games in an FNCS final, Prizzy's team has an average placement of 2nd. 12-elim win, 11-elim win, 6-elim 4th. That is a freakish effort.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. We haven't seen anyone kind of tear it up like this, and I don't know how long, man. It's really not comparable to many other FNCSs because they're doing something at a record pace that, it's going to be hard to keep up with. And again, this is a team that did it out of the hardest heat, and now they're doing it in the FNCS finals. It's not a fluke, right? It's what we talked about, whether or not they just had a lucky day, a good time in the heats. No, they're proving that they have what it takes. You know what, though? Fresh, too. Fresh had a hard time coming in. He struggled, and I feel like his story is still on that struggle bus. They're just, they're just holding on. They're just clinging on to top 10, trying to figure something out here.
Just inside top 10. We've seen they do have that win condition as well, though. I know they picked up at least 1 victory royale in their heats as well. It was that same heat that we saw Prizzy's team come out of as well. That heat 2, it was incredibly, incredibly stacked. But yeah, Fresh's team just kind of getting inside that top 8 as well. They had a few good performances. Went down 4th place twice, which did really affect their points. But yeah, they need to put something together here. They need to step up and kind of have those big, fantastic games. But like we talked about, Fresh has been around for a long time, kind of falls into that content creator category. I know he doesn't have the ego about it, but I know he's been putting in the work where I don't want to, take that away from him and want to kind of put him in that competitive perspective because he's been practicing as Basil, Vortex, and Jace trying to take a fight onto Matthew's team here. Mobrix is down below, and Basil, Vortex, and Jace are playing aggressive. This isn't just a fight for some points, it's a fight for positioning as well. I think they want this big hill position because otherwise I can't see why they'd be getting so aggro on this team that they haven't really tagged, they haven't knocked them, they're just getting in.
Yeah, this is a team I really want to see more of. I want to see what's the recipe for success for this trio here, because they're definitely winning their fights. We see them coming into these mid-game storm surges, and they're well above it, right? Any team that's near them, they're usually distancing themselves away from them so that they can take fights on their favorable terrain, circumstances, pace, right? They're setting themselves up for the W here. I like where Jace, Vortex, and Basil are headed. If they continue this, I think they're moving at a consistent, steady pace. For 2-day format, this could very well be a team that could take home this entire weekend.
They can take it home. And I mean, you talk about it's a weekend. This is a marathon affair. It's going to be who can do it 12 games. But we talk about first, there's $90,000 up for grabs right now in OCE. And the way the prize pool split this time around, as soon as it got announced, Monster, I took a look at it and I had some big thoughts. And one of the first ones I noticed was because they're saving it all for the final days, there's a lot of big jumps around that bottom of the leaderboard too. So you've really got to focus up and do the best you can across the whole weekend. Yes, you're aiming for first, but even one good game in the last few games that can jump you from, I don't know, let's say top 10 teams to top 5 is a huge jump in money. Every game is going to count. And as much as it's 12 game format, with the way this scoring format works, with victory hours being worth 30 and a lim's worth 2, you have that one huge game jump up and you're earning thousands, tens of thousands of more dollars. So they're really going to have to try and step up here at any point in this tournament. But if you can have that big day one, it's very often you see a team have a huge day one and really drop behind.
Yeah, what you're going to have to do is, not let Raptor Prison only eat them all up. Yeah, there's only a couple prestigious victory royales available. They've already snatched them too, right? You gotta get after it. Fresh is going to get knocked in. That's a big thing to point out for sure. It's Jay Votto. Listen, Tassie and Puma, they've been having a pretty solid run so far.
They really have.
This game's not really going in their way.
53 points for a team that you and me openly mentioned at the start that I didn't know that much about coming into this. Maybe G-Bang going to be able to do something to put his name on the mark as a fragger, but there is no way in a 1v3. I'm not going to hold that against him. Very rarely will you win a 1v3 in circumstances like that, especially with a great tack, but they've got decent points up there, 50 plus points so far. They're really going to try and keep up that consistency. We saw in game number 1, they're a team that was holding down high ground, unfortunately lost that, maybe showing a bit of lack of experience there, but they're really in the kind of conversation right now for one of those teams that could surprise us across this weekend.
Yeah, well, that's the 6th place that they once had, and surely it's not going to hold now, really dependent on how these other teams play out, and it's close. It's really close after we break out of the top 5. I mean, the team right up behind that is Brezzo, Kocher, and Lunar. Listen, we haven't talked too much about Brezzo tonight. We haven't seen too much of their gameplay up on the screen, but they're on pace. They're putting themselves in that top 10 conversation, so they're playing well. They're playing good Fortnite, and that's that consistency that we're looking for. Remember, it's halfway mark, baby. This is where you want to continue to hold down the pace, and if you're in the top 10, you're in the top 5, you're just a couple tweaks away from a victory royale. That one big 30-point swing is what you need to be hunting for.
Yeah, the big swing, and that's what Repulse God's team was hunting for as well. I'm trying to get eyes on them. They are on that south side of the map, and because that early fight, I have to think they maybe have their surge up in Monster. If you look at the map, they're on the left. They're looking great. They're rotating to what is very much dead side. They're going to have that whole edge themselves as we now see Seldom, Box, FNBR, and Peaky trying to make their way out of the Stealthy Stronghold for the first time. They don't get into the long drawn-out fight, but they still don't get into the placement points. I don't know if either of those teams out of Stealthy have gotten a single placement point between them so far in these games, as Volks gets a nice elimination onto Mania, and Repulse's team is looking fantastic. We talked about them full sending it for Hype Monster. I mentioned they might be full sending it through the early game. It looks like they were happy with that one team wipe, got in their surge, and now they're happy to play it out as my pick to win the whole thing this weekend. Our second place team, even with 2 eliminations, are below the Storm Surge.
Yeah, that's an odd one right there. Definitely didn't expect this team to be so below. That means everyone's really exchanging tags right now. 72, 71. One player has to fall right here. District, Bance, and Gustos, they don't feel safe, and this is why they're trying to take the fight. It's up against Jared. We see this team, again, on the losing side of that battle at the drop spot. Pleasant Park just being a rough place for them to really try to figure things out. And, it hasn't gotten any better, right? They're just rotating into teams that also want to fight. Look, their tags are way up and above where they need to be, so they're feeling pretty good, but they're a man down. They don't have Jedi Knight.
They don't have Jedi Knight, and that's it. 3 eliminations between the 2 still remaining. 4 eliminations total. We got Gussos, Bantus, and District here in a good spot on the edge, and I just can't keep my eyes off that bottom left on the minimap. Every time we show it, we have Repulse's team just sitting pretty out there where there's so much room to work with. If you're looking to make a big high ground play, it's going to be from there if they can manage to get zones. So these zones are going to be so incredibly important because this zone doesn't look like it's that crazy, but there's some big elevation. There's some big buildings here at Hunters. You also have the lake down near Misty that still has the potential to get a zone pulled towards it. So this zone might not look as sketchy as like a big Misty Meadows mountain, but honestly, this zone is going to be massive as we kind of push past the halfway mark. Teams are looking to get any advantage coming into the last 3 games, and one massive game here for Repulse's team will hugely change up the storyline. But if they go down early, you have to think that might take away the confidence too. It's their first game here on the day. They've still got the jitters. They've been watching everyone play this out just from the sidelines.
Yeah, I think, honestly, I think it's the opposite. I think that first win was enough to seal away the jitters and give them the boost that they need to carry out the rest of the day. Wiping a team that was at 38 points, you just wiped the top 10 team like it was nothing at the drop spot. You know what I mean? Like that is the boost that you need. That's everything. That's the icing to just say, all right, come on, we should be up there. Now it's time to make up for that lost time, and I think they're going to close the gap. I think they're going to have a great entry game here in game number 4.
As Oatly gets another elimination on a Yixta, so first place stretches that little bit further. 2 points might not sound like a lot, but it really, really is enough to swing tournaments, especially here on the first day, as Bantus, Gussos, and District trying to fight their way through here as well, as we have another fight that looks really aggressive. But honestly, I like this from a team who needs to have a big jump up on the points. They're taking the fight on the edge, not too many eyes on them, but they have to capitalize on this quickly. They have to end it quickly because they are nowhere near zone. And while there is only 1 or 2 teams in between them, other teams are going to rotate quickly, and that zone was very, very favorable to Repulse's God's team in that bottom left corner.
Yup, that's where they wanted to be. They wanted to come down towards them. Remember, they're still going to be hunting for a fight here soon. We're talking about the next surge threshold being at the top 50. Yes, they got a team wipe. They were 400 above before, but as the game progresses, so does the surge, so does the damage on the lobby. It really starts to disperse out. So it's going to be about time for them to get active again. Sorif, Sync, and Volks here, they're having a bad time though. No shields across the board. Looks like they're struggling to figure out where they want to make this rotate through. And okay, they get it. They get away with it.
They get away with it, and that's what you need as well. They got 3 floppers, 3 slurpfish here, so they've got heal-off potential up against Volks. First versus second. This is huge right now on the leaderboard. First place versus second place. Volks' team with no shields on the board. It's going to be a monumental effort to be able to jump on top of Oatly's team here to be able to take them out, but that would be huge for the leaderboard. But they rotate away from each other. They don't take the fights on each other. Raptors team 114 above. We saw that Volks' team was taking big damage from Storm Surge earlier. It's obviously how they found themselves with no shield. They need an impact elimination. They need a refresh. I mean, at this point, Monster, they just need some Siphon.
Yeah, at this point, I don't know. They need to throw the guns out the box. They're 300 damage below. First place is just next door. And high ground, Suns, Cork, and Tui decide, hey, of all the boxes, let's choose the second place team that just so happens to be right next to us. And first place is seeing that go down. This is just a recipe for disaster. Nothing's going in their favor. You know, Sorf is desperate. Look, he's targeting anything that he can here.
He got the headshot snipe onto the NPC that unfortunately is still inside Hunter's Haven as this giant game is breaking out. I haven't seen too many endgames go down this way, but unfortunately, Volks going down. Sync and Sorov here trying to hold something happen. The second place, Volks is my pick to win it this weekend, so I'm very unfortunate to see them go down as Sync cops a stray bullet that I think he was pretty far behind the wall, but it was a pretty aggressive peak, so bit of an unfortunateness there for Sync's team as now Sorov has to do it as a solo, which only makes Prizzy's lead that much more ridiculous as they are a full trio coming into this game, and Sorov's one of the few teams that are actually contesting them on the leaderboard at that 100 plus points. So man, only Prizzy right now looking fantastic.
That's the story right here, but Sorafate, he's still alive here. He is going to find the tags to just keep him in, and nope, I lied. It's a back and forth. This is a never-ending story for him, and now he has to get inside and really start to get active. He's going to find a med kit here. This is going to allow him to buy himself a little bit more time. Hopefully, he can pop off before this next tag starts to come through because other teams. And finally, first place actually is in a much worse for wear situation. Prizzy's down, and another team on first is down. Sorf is now completely wiped out the game, so second is wiped out of the competition, but Raptor's probably the only one left up. And there it is. He finally falls. So, okay, now we have, again, an opportunity for the rest of the lobby, an opportunity for the rest of this game to actually swing in someone else's favor.
This is huge. First and second and down. You're now looking at teams like Pumpkin, CLR, Hardworker, which is Cyper, and Sunswick we're watching. And then obviously we're also going to have Muzz, Luda, and Speedy. Those are the two teams right now, 82 and 90 points respectively. They're close. Basil Vortex, Jace is up there. They need to have huge games. Or teams like Alec, Jinx, and Worthy, the FNCS champions here in game number 4 on only 25 points right now. They're not even inside the top 10. I think they're just inside the top 15. And right now they are a man down as well. So this is looking rough. This is our third place team now, so this leaderboard is going to shift up massively here because Cyper goes down. Suns and Pumpkin have to do it as a duo as the third place. We're potentially going to see first, second, and third teams all go down here before we even get to top 10 teams.
Yeah, and that's where the real stuff starts to trickle in. So this is sad times for the leaderboards, but it's also great for everyone else to really continue to make this closer and closer as far as the competition stakes go. And remember, we're only on game number 4, so there's still plenty of more Fortnite in front of us before this day's wrapped up. Chemo Nayo and HVT's Fab here, really bouncing up though. 8 eliminations already, and 44 players standing coming into the first full moving zone. What a way to catch up now and start to make a name and a statement for yourself on high ground. A team that needs to do that as well is Remy, Spraz, and Pace.
I mean, they came into this game not even inside the top 20 here, so they're in the bottom third of the leaderboard. They are a team with a lot of competitive pedigree, been around for a long time, especially Remy and Spraz, so they might be able to hold this and have their huge jump up. This is going to make the leaderboard so much closer, as I do still see Jace's team on the front side trying to do big things as well. So there are those teams inside the top 5, but this is looking great for teams like Brezzo, like Rel, like Bathan, who are just inside that top 10, who need to have a huge jump up. But I do still see Worthy Alec in this as well. I think we just tuned in as well to our Ludus Muzz team, so I don't know how they're going, as Tui Corkin still in this, and there it is, Ludus, Speedy, and Muzz, a full trio. They need to have that big game. They need to prove why Timmy has so much faith in them as the best team in OCE right now, because they're on the edge. But as I say that, Speedy goes down, it's just Muzz and Luda. Things are going shambles right now. They get the elimination. Muzz finishes them off on low ground, but Muzz is now a solo.
It's brutal down here, and Tyrax is up, and it's Muzz versus Tyrax. Tyrax needs to stay alive. He cannot afford to get taken out. That's a team that has to come back for 3 games worth, and no, the Storm's going to do the rest. This is perfect for Muzz, who might be able to steal his way into the zone. If he can get in here, this is going to be enough, and there it is. The siphon trickles over. Okay, he has a fighting chance.
He has a fighting chance. Luda goes down, and no, that's another team right up there on the leaderboard. So I don't know if Sunswick is still in this. If Suns and Pumpkin still manage to hold on after they lost Cyper, they're going to be doing great things. But we currently have 4 of our 5 teams in the top 5 currently out of this completely, potentially all 5, as Tui, Cork, and Suns here on the high ground. They are different Suns, by the way, trying to do massive things for that RPG to close out. Repulse still in it. So even though we've lost Tyrax, we've lost Forbes here. Ashes is down on the low ground, out of retail row, 38 points. They need to make their end games count, as Will has 4 floppers. Ashes is going to try and desperately get his hands onto him, but he can't. No, they go down with such a good loadout for this end game.
Now look at this, Repulse is still alive. The hope is still real here. Already 22 points for him. If he pulls away a top 3, that's going to be perfect. Basil, though, put his name on the resume here. He is popping off still, holding things down, man down in the box, and still hitting every shot that matters. But the RPG is one you cannot avoid, and down he goes. And now it's high ground versus everyone else, but it's their playground, and they're putting big work in right now.
And this is the top 3. Here we go. Top 3 situation. I said it. Fresh, Rel, and Nubatoon came down to 4th last time. Twice in the heats. They need this. Repulse is still in this right now. Cork is in this as well. So we have this. Repulse at the solo. He goes down. It's now Fresh, Rel, and Nubatoon on low ground. It's just Fresh. All eyes on him. It is a 3v1. Fresh has had some pretty insane moments in competitive Fortnite history. He's done some big things, but I don't know if even he can pull this off unless he's got a sushi bar's worth of floppers out there. There is no chance he wins this heal off. We can't see it. He's staying above though. He's up towards the 100 white health. He's still got 1 flopper. He's still got 1 splash. He's got 25 builds, but can he take on a 1v3? He doesn't have enough for the heal off. He doesn't have enough to pull it off, but what a fantastic game from that team. But Suns, Cork, and Tui getting the 10 elimination victory royale, jumping them massively up the leaderboard. We've talked about the power of the RPG. The first time we see him in the end game as a full team monster, they take out the dub.
About time. We see that rocket launcher make it all the way through. This time it was in their inventory and they did it. But listen, I think all respect has to go to Repulse, who pulled a third place there. And that, my friends, is where the real placement starts to come in. And so did Fresh, man. Staying alive with this year was a great job.
I mean, all I know, Monster, for us, as far as the leaderboard goes, that made it so much tighter. We saw 4 of the top 5 teams go down before any of the big placement right now. So it has just made it so much better at the top, so much more exciting. And that's what we love to see as we've now gone past the halfway mark. I'm going to have to throw it over to the analyst to break it down. We got 2 more games, and it is so much closer than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, we absolutely love to see it too, Ozzy. So I think you said it very, very well. Something that I guess we wanted to highlight and focus this time around, Timmy, was now that we've got Repulse in the game and they managed to place third, it just goes to show that this squad, even though they're kind of having to make up for those lost games earlier, they're a team that is confident and can get it done. We know sort of their past, kind of pedigree.
Yeah. So they're a team that we know is confident. I mean, Repulse makes no issues on that. Everyone knows exactly how he likes to play. Everyone knows exactly how he's going to play. I'm surprised we didn't see him grief height. We saw him get into a really good spot for fourth zone. But the issue was all those mountains and all those players on those mountains. When we saw the zone pull towards that way, everyone sitting on edge there was forced to rotate into those hills, and we saw I think we saw probably 75% of the teams there fall out.
Yeah, it was actually insane how many people were trying to opt for the hills and high ground towards that late game. You'll see that on your mini-map at the bottom right in just a moment here. And this is where towards that mid-game you did see Repulse, Forbes, and Tyrex play really aggressive early, get a few elims. Good bounce back game for them. And honestly, this is why you have to put so much respect on their name. They are so incredibly good. The best, you heard Ozzy say it, and I completely agree, the best aggro team in OCE, in my opinion, a team that just pushes everyone with no fear. And honestly, even though they're only going to have a chance to play 3 games here, which is tragic, I think you might see them in the top 7, top 10 here, rounding out our 6-game first day. It's going to be crazy, especially given the fact that the standings got changed up quite a bit there, with Suns, Tui, and Cork taking a first-place finish. Fresh, of course, clutching in a second-place finish for his team.
Yeah, and I think another thing to point out there, when we always talking about consistency, it's a word that we're going to keep on saying game after game after game. A team that we haven't seen a huge amount on is actually Luna, Brezzo, and Culture. But again, they made it through to those top 7, top 8, where you're starting to get a pretty decent amount of placement. No, it's not that top 3 where you get a majority of it. But when it adds up and it adds up and it adds up, that's when you start to really rake in those points, Vandy.
Mm-hmm. I think you said it really, really nicely. Yes, consistency is the name of the game, but this is only day 1 of the finals. Usually we have that 6-game format. This is where it's spread out over that 12-game format. So I kind of mentioned it a little bit before about the whole marathon analogy, and it definitely kind of stands true. But let's take a look at our updated standings in Fallout. If you kind of just, pick through anything that kind of jumps out at you, or also was this what you expected to see?
Yeah, still expected to see Raptor, Prizzy, and Oatly on top, but the deficit is starting to dwindle here as Raptor, Prizzy, and Oatly had a significant lead going into that last game. Now it's only about a 25-point lead over Sorf, Volks, and Sync. So despite our top 2 getting taken out relatively early, they had enough of a cushion. It just allowed the rest of the lobby to catch up. I mean, take a look, 3rd through 5th with Basil, and then of course Team Pumpkin in 4th, and then Muzz, Looter, and Speedy in 5th. Neck and neck for top 3 here as we take a look at our second page. I think you're going to see more of the same, Timmy.
Yeah, that's right. And I think it's down to whether or not some team can consistently make those end games and really push themselves up the standings, and then, have that 1 or 2 good games. As you see there, Suns, Tui, and Cork, they had that good game. That's what's pushed them up here. That Victory Royale there puts them into 7th. Fresh, Rel, and Nuberton, we saw Fresh make it through to the end game there, which is why we see them in 6th. Brezzo, Culture, and Luna, exactly what I was alluding to. Not really breaking through, but the consistency will start to add up. And then if they have that, a good game like Suns and Tui just had, we might see them jump up the standings quite significantly. Zans, Orion, Raikou, and then Bathan, Zedox, and Seo. Again, another team. We haven't seen them on broadcast, but they've slowly kept on creeping their way up there, up into the top 10 here.
Yeah, they've been playing very, very consistent. Excited to see what they can do as we take a look 11th through 15th here. Neo, Fab, and Chemo in 13th is the one that stands out to me. Jinx, Alec, and Worthy in 12th. We talked about them. We kind of called them out. We said we wanted to see them have a big game here in game number 4, and they had a solid game enough to put them in the top 12, which as long as they're within that kind of top 15, top 10 realm, I could see them going big tomorrow. So definitely do not sleep on them by any means. Neo, Fab, and Chemo, in my eyes, could be playing so much better if they were not 50-50 in their drop spot. They're 2 2-2 right now. They've won two initials, they've lost 2 initials, and even though they've only really played 2 full games, they're still in 13th, which is impressive. And I'm excited to see 16th through 20th because I think we got a little surprise here, Timmy, in terms of who's in 20th place.
Yeah, for sure. And again, we're looking for any one of these teams, excuse me, any one of these teams to make a big play and to make a good jump in there. Like you said, Fallout, Repulse, Forbes, and Tyrax up into 20th already. Didn't take long, did it? And it's those sorts of games there that I think we're going to see from them consistently. They're not going to be shy about it. They're going to play for height. They're going to be aggressive. If they look to fight you mid-game, it's probably wraps. So, they're a team to really look out for. But these other teams here, it's all up to them to make some plays, make something happen, go for a big game. It's finals. Yes, there's nerves. I'm not taking that away from them, but it's really important that you go out there and you play your best Fortnite, because if you come away after being, nervous in finals, you're gonna be really mad at yourself at the end of it.
You don't want to have any regrets. Really well said, Timmy. But something that Aussie kind of pointed out as well, with only 2 games left to go, it's really important now that we see teams really finish out this day one strong. And I know that you kind of highlighted it yourself, all that, where you really want to be within that rank about 10 to 15 on the standings, because then at least you don't have your work cut out for you in the later games. But enough from us. We're going to wrap it up here at the analyst desk because, as I said, match number 5, probably right around the corner. Let's check in back with your casters, Aussie Antics and Monster.
Thank you so much, Vandy. 2 games to go right now. It's a 12-game format, but you can't count out what finishing today strong means for tomorrow. You get the momentum. You get to go to sleep happy. You maybe get to hit the VODs to figure out what worked well, what didn't, but it's just so much easier going into tomorrow, knowing you left everything out there, going to sleep, having those regrets, or thinking you could have done a little bit more, Monster. That is really, really going to hurt the mental going into 6 games tomorrow, which is an entire tournament. As we see, Alec is down, maybe from a long-range snipe. I have to think there's no one inside Dirty Dogs. They don't have elimination, so did Alec fall? I don't know. We'll have to maybe get the analyst to break that down later, but we're okay. They are still all back up, though.
I was going to say, I'm not sure what happened there, but he does manage to get picked up. At least I see him moving around there. He's still alive. Other things to just keep out of, like you said, right? Exactly. It's stressful, right? It's stressful if you have a hard day one. And for a team like Repulse especially, right? We're talking about just being unlucky sometimes. Man, getting the short end of the stick here, not having a couple of games to really play off of. But again, being able to just show that they can make these big runs. They're up in top 20 with 1 game already, that 30-point swing. So I will be so impressed if we could see another just big game come out of Forbes, Tyrax, and Repost, which if you look at the map, they're already pursuing that coastal line again. They're looking for that early fight once again.
Yeah, you'd have to imagine the Cynicals team's got eyes out on those mountains, just waiting to see a full trio run over and to see if they can get out quickly. As we see probably the slowest or most drawn out Pleasant Park fight we've seen this entire time here. We got Neo, Fab, and Chemo right now taking a slower fight. Looks like it's going well for them, as right now Cripper's down to a 2v3 right now, looking like it's about to be a 1v3 potentially. They're just gonna have to try and get in and close this one out. They've got 41 points on the board so far, so out of a contested drop, actually not too terrible, Monster.
Yeah, they're doing solid, man. 41 points, keeping themselves in the top 15. And honestly, they've won their draw spot the majority of the times. They're continuing to doing it here and now. I'm sure they're just beating themselves up. If they could have just won this draw spot coming out of game number 1, or if it was 2 where they fell, they'd be in such a much better position. But this is why we talk about contested drops really don't breed players that are going to win champions, right? There's just so much going on at all times.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, the only time we've really seen anything from any region, whether it be the qualifiers, whether it be the heats, was Colazo's team in their heat. I think it was in their week number 2 qualifier. They managed to be contested and still come out on first because they wiped the team instantly within the first minute of every game. It's really the only way you could possibly do it. And fights like this, the longer they go, the worse it is. They've got zone, but now Cripper's going to use the med kit, potentially gets interrupted with the amount of time they've wasted, the amount of meds they've wasted. Pleasant Park doesn't have a lot of loot already. You can't be feeding too much shield into your opponents or into your own shield pool before you then lose it again in a long drawn out fight. So I have to think that's going to affect Chemo's team as we have another long drawn out fight that isn't working for either of these teams. It's just something about this kind of northwest section of the map, Monster. What is it? Stealthy, Sweaty, and Pleasant. Our 3 spawn fires that are breaking down every single game, and they're all so close together.
I mean, they're pretty solid drop spots too, right?
True,
they're
true.
good spots to take fights, notorious places that battles break out all the time. But the sweaty one's very unique because you have, teams that are fighting one another here for the drop, but then you have a team lurking on the outskirts and really trying to just, come in and take advantage of this whole entire collapse that happens between the two squads. By the time they jump in on one another and trying to wrap up those fights, you have that third party really coming in. And I don't use the word third party very often, but that is the epitome. That's the peak of what a third party team looks like. They come in perfectly and just come through to sweep things up.
And look at that. We get Raptor, Prezi, and Oatly getting an airdrop as well. So our first place team on 136 points. Last game being their worst game so far here today. Still not a terrible game by any means, but by their standards, the 2 elim 19th, really, they didn't get any placement. They only got those 4 points for the 2 eliminations, but they get an airdrop. They have a good favorable zone. I talked about a monster. I will be way more confident in their consistency if they can do well in a game when they get zone. That was their 6 elim 4th. So not a bad performance, but it wasn't the same win. So I'm starting to lean towards when they get zone, they don't do as well. Again, we're going to need way more of a data pool. By the 12 games, we'll have that information, but they're looking fantastic here as they're still 25 points in the lead. When a victory royale's worth 30, that's huge.
Yeah, definitely. This is a placement-based format, right? Especially considering that, you have to go all the way to the end. Not just like make a top 10, top 5. No, you got to get to top 3. That's usually the last and final zone. Here now, this fight is finally starting to really get on and interesting. Zora, Jalen, and Squeaks here jump on in. And honestly, a team that I expected to be doing a lot better in these fights, like really wrapping these up a lot sooner and quicker. They've, underperformed, if you will, here at the Sweaty Sands fight, but they've won it maybe once, I think twice. This time around, it seems like they might be able to walk away with it again. For coming into game 5, you think they'd kind of figure out a better strategy or something. It's going the distance, but it's not paying out, probably playing out the way they wanted to.
Yeah, it's hard for 3 players that are very, very good fighters. Very, very confident. I was actually talking to Jalen recently. He knows that coming into this FNCS, they're a little bit underprepared. Sweeks was supposed to be playing with Jesse and Jordan until Jesse, obviously the X2 twins I'm talking about, Jesse announced his retirement, which threw a spanner in that work. They then dropped Price, picked up Squeaks last minute. It's not the ideal scenario going into this end game here as we have Squeaks, then team trying to push in now, trying to get the last player. Jedi Knight's hiding in the corner. I think they found him, but smart positioning. He hit in the corner at the vehicle as well. So now he gets away and Squeaks takes the big damage from Me Sport, which is that team you talked about, Monster, rotating into Sweaty and going for what really is the big third party.
Yeah, they just wait for the opportunity. This time, though, look, they say, hey, the fight didn't really break out the way they broke out in the previous games. We don't need to stay here and take it. We don't need to stay here and antagonize these guys any further. And now they've rotated on out. Ice, Me Sport, and Soul going to go ahead and get the move on here, cut off the loop pathing as well. This allows them to get in front of anything on the way to the zone. So, it's those little things that a team that even though they didn't necessarily interrupt their fight or anything, they're still going to interrupt their game as a whole. On the other side, though, oh my gosh, Pumpkin, Sunswick, and CLR Hardworker, listen, they're coming in. They're here for the fight. That's Cypher. And, they're putting up some big numbers.
They're putting up big numbers. That's a team that's right up there in the leaderboard right now. They're in 4th place. Last game, again, being their worst game so far as well. But Pumpkin and Cypher holding this down. 1 elimination on Cypher. Pumpkin's there. Sunswick's gone down. Danith is now a solo. They're in Salty. They can go for the reboot. But I'm looking at 3 or 4 teams in the area. That reboot van is a very, very vocal audio cue. We know that, Monster. Any team is going to look at it like Brezzo, Culture, Luna. So I don't know. This could be disastrous for this team as we see Muzz, Speedy, and Luda also rotate past another team right up there on the leaderboard as Culture's going to try and get some damage. Can't get the angle though, but 62 points. Not too bad for Brezzo's team here. Obviously, the winner of our last Australian Open, this broadcast is being put on by the Australian Open. We can't show them enough love. We can't say thank you enough for putting on the broadcast here, so we get to highlight these OCE players. Normally, it would be in that big land setting, but I'm sure these guys aren't going to complain being able to be on the big stage from home as Brezzo's trying to do something big. Obviously, that was a solo event, trying to show off his team gameplay here, and they're not doing bad. It's a team that's kind of in that bubble, Monster, with a good day tomorrow and a good finish now. They could be up there.
Yeah, I don't think they're doing bad at all. I mean, you're like this. These guys have just fallen shy of top 10 multiple times. Like, if you just look at time alive, 22 to 23 minutes plus every single game. They're that team that unfortunately is alive all the way to the end and just, fall just shy of where they want to be. But with how consistent they've been, one more pop-off game, like one that can really spike them up, I think they're very much having a great time today. It's not like they had some okay games and then died early. They haven't died early at all so far.
You know, on that statistic, Monster, I want to speak to that really quickly as well. You point out that's perfect. Their average time alive of 23 minutes and 49 seconds is actually higher than our first place team on over double their points. So they really are putting in the numbers. They're playing consistent. They're just falling that like 30 seconds short from the huge points. I love that you pointed that out, Monster. That is a team that is playing consistent. They just need that maybe that extra flopper, maybe that one tap further away, that one layer change that'll keep them alive until that top 3. And they'll see a lot more success.
I think it's just the frag, right? Just get the Elam, man. When that fight happens and everything's on the table, you gotta win the fight. You gotta hit your shots. If you hit those, you get the replenishes, you get the refreshes, and you're back in the game. And that's the difference. That's how you get the final mile out of the round. It's the winning fight. It's the clutch shots, right, that matter the most. Here, though, the exchange shots, you see these kind of highlight clips happen all the time. This is why pro players love the sniper. If you get hit or if you land those hits, man, it works pretty well.
I think Oreo, Raikou, and Zan's also a team that's just on the edge of that one. They've come back in a big way. They got a 1 elim 16th, a 0 elim 15th their first few games. They brought it back with a 6th and 4th. My point is interrupted here by a big fight. Now, Cork and Tui, our team that won last game, had their huge pop-off game, are going up against Tecma, Midnight, and Shocker, a team that have had struggled a little bit to get through the qualifiers and the heats. Weren't huge favorites coming into this, and they're on 8 points, struggling a bit, and they're going to disengage from that fight. They're not too happy to take that one. But Cork Tui is not going to let them get away for free. They said, hey man, you rolled up to the wrong box. You're going to regret doing that. As Cork, Suns, and Tui lay down the damage, they get elimination on the board. Venice's team here in the distance as well. And unfortunately, they go down. Only Midnight left standing. But Cork's team set up to have a fantastic game again.
Yeah, no reason to sit tight here. There are way too many people on the rotate, and you got to get moving. I was talking about sitting tight. Midnight is okay. Definitely sit tight, Midnight. Don't move. Too many players nearby. No team to back him up. He's got 4 floppers. Plenty of loot that any team would be happy to have picked up. And looks like he gets found out. Trixie jumps in a box. And, you know, he shouldn't be able to get too far now.
Shouldn't be able to get too far. I don't think he's going to be able to get away from this one as well. Midnight there is. He's backed up in the boxes. So full trio engagement in there, and they closed it out. Took a little bit of damage for it, though. Venice loses a bit of shield, but they're going to start handing around the shield. They've got plenty of loot, and they've got plenty of shield to fall back on. So looking great there. 326 above now. As these OCE games aren't slowing down as far as the pacing goes, Monster. 30 teams, 83 players alive here. Everyone's still trying their hardest.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone's still trying to get back in this. I mean, I want to see if we could check in Repulse and company too, right? Like, where are they? What did their early game look like? We saw what happened in the previous one. We saw how quickly things ramped up for them, and I just want to know how and what kind of pacing are they on. Clean here, Polox, excuse me, and Rivley, man. Rivley's already down. We know these guys like to fight in these mid-game instances, in these early game battles. They are usually the kind of team that's up above the surge.
Tazzy gets it and steals that loot, needs it, hiding inside the bush. Tazzy's a solo, trying to do something to get back in this. Raptors team now getting Puma there, so that's another elimination for our first place team. But look at Sun's loadout. Look at their positioning on the edge of this zone. If they can make it past all these Holy Hedges team, make a solid rotate, they have a good chance to be another team to get back-to-back victory royales. As you see, Repulse, Tyrax, and Forbes, no elimination, so didn't play the early game as aggressively as the first game we saw them in Monster, but they're setting up for that end game. Timmy talked about it. They didn't have that big aggressive high take like we thought they might, but looks like they're setting up here on top of this team.
Yeah, they're setting up to take this fight. 6 damage above. You know they're going to have to pop it off here or find attacks, and they do. And I think it's a knock as well as their rest goes down here. And now it's the full-on push in. It's the W key. Get that elimination, secure the loot, and continue to power on through these squads here. Not to mention, it's on its way to the new zone, so perfect elim to go ahead and pick up there. And they're on the southern part of the zone here. They can really figure out where they want to play into this next zone here. If anything, they can make a dead side rotate with how much extra surge they've now managed to pick up here.
Suns, Cork, and Tui now in a good position to try and get another free elimination if they can. They got 2 on the board, and I think both of them have come at the back of pretty decent freebies here. They're really kind of setting themselves up in good positions to take those fights, get that Storm Surge, get the elimination as Daneth now falls. I saw Jarlan, Zor, and Squeaks having a rough rotate around the edge. Very congested, as right now this is finishing on Holy Hedges. The first time we've seen it kind of go towards Fresh's team, who had a fantastic game last game, seeing if they can do it again now as Vortex, Basil, and Jace about to crack the triple digits. So a team that we talked about as being not really underdog, because if you follow OCE, you know how fantastic they are, but players who, if you're outside of OCE, you haven't heard too much about, really hoping they can keep up the consistency. 2 games to go, Monster, to make everything count, as Repulse's team has to do everything here. They really need a win here out of these last 2 games to have a solid chance, even with a phenomenal performance tomorrow, as there it is, Jace gets in onto Oreo's team and they're over 100 points.
And that's so bad for Oreo's team. 9th place there, Zans and Raikou, so Oreo getting taken out there. Was just a knock and a finish, so there might be someone left there, but again, you're on the bubble, you're in top 10, you gotta stay consistent, man. These are the last 2 games. There's no time to drop the ball now.
Yeah, you've really got to stay consistent in those last few games, because again, 2 more. And I know you say you can have the mental reset, you can hit the VODs, you can do whatever you want at the end of these games, but going to sleep knowing you've got 6 games on the line tomorrow for all the prize money in FNCS this season, you want to be finishing off with a couple strong games to help out the mental as well. Like, I've played in a few different Fortnite competitions. I know you have too, Monster. I'm a particularly nervous player when it comes to those moments. I'm going to want to finish game day 1 well if I'm going into day 2 for the confidence, as you really got to ride out that confidence as we see Cypher get another elimination in the feed, and a beautiful spot for Rel's team.
Yeah, great spot to be in. Here's Bantis now trying to just claw his way back into this competition. He's going to pick up Zora there, who I believe that was that was still a knock. So Squeaks is the only sole player alive here. Squeaks is actually going to clutch up here and now make this a lot closer for competition. What a great edit there. Wins the exchange, even with the camera angle not being to his favor. And now the zone's going to start pushing him in. This is getting interesting. Very, very interesting. Bantis is going to have to play the zone.
Bears gonna have to play the zone, and that's not this position you want to be in. As Squeaks is playing for pride here to leave it all out on the line right now. Really doesn't have much to his name, and no, Bantis managed to close that one out. Gussos and District already having gone down. Bantis again fighting his way through this. I like that bounce pad. Gets him behind the physical terrain there. No way that player above can see them. I mean, I don't want to say a great play, because my man's now in Storm as a solo with the whole zone in front of them, but for the situation he's in, well played.
Yeah, good way to extend the game. I mean, look, we saw what Repost did as a solo in those end game instances. You can really steal away those extra points. Oatly did it once today as well, right? It's the story, man. You never really know. Here, though, Repulse, Tyrax, and Forbes, they're getting active. They're not letting the team get comfortable. Not a single team nearby. That was a calculated 3-2-1 on the builds there to see if they could just crack away at any kind of builds. We saw what they did to Arrest. They just opened fire as a trio team, and if they all hit the shots, you're going down. There's no way you're surviving it. You're just going to lose all your HP before you can even react. As we're watching Bantis trying to really figure out, okay, how do I break line of sight and get a late rotate going here?
Yeah, getting a very, very late rotate. 30 seconds till the zone comes in. It's our 4th zone. They've got 4 eliminations on the board, so I think Bantis is good for the Storm Surge. But one thing I'm nervous about for Cork, Tui, and Suns here, their one victory, their big game did come off the back of high ground. We haven't seen them play those mid and low ground layers as effectively. We have Repulse in this lobby knowing he's going to go for height. I have to think the Jinx, Alec, and Worthy also need to have their big height game we haven't seen from them. Volx's team playing consistent, but hasn't really been on the back of a lot of high ground retakes. I think this might be the game where we've been expecting to have that huge, just explosive, tumultuous high ground. Who is going to be left standing as Freshwell and Nubatoon set up for it? And they have beautiful positioning to try and get this one on that 5th half zone.
That 2nd place they picked up last game is well warranted, especially considering they were slipping away, right? They were watching their games just all of a sudden start to really slip away. So they're day 1 bouncing back into it. But these rounds right here, these final moments, this game 5 means everything for the competition. How are they going to set themselves up? High ground hold on the opposite side. Forbes, Repulse, and Tyrax go up nice and early. That's a bold claim here for high ground. Committing the resources, committing the loot, and just looking at how much extra they have. I mean, they're looking pretty solid. It looks like they might have found something on the way on in.
Find something on the way in. All these teams need to find so much here as we have 63 players alive, Mo. So we've seen so much action, so many contested drops, and yet still getting active search on every single zone, on every single threshold. And look how Tyrax's team, Repulse and Forbes, are setting up for that big high ground. They're investing the mats now, just hoping they get it. If they manage to get it, that is going to change up this storyline massively, as it's Prizzy, Raptor, and Oatly who they bully off the high ground, who they take off it. They don't end up getting it. All those teams right now who need the big game are on this edge. None of them get zoned. And I think, does that potentially go into the hands of Fresh's team? I think that's exactly where Fresh's team was for this one.
You know what? And so is Bantis. Hashtag, Bantis is still alive somewhere out there. No, as I say that, Volk spots him in the feed. You know what? I tried to give him some hope there.
You tried to. Casters don't usually have the best reputation when it comes to giving a team a bit of luck here, as it is. Rel, Nubatun, and Fresh, though, get the zone. They're on high ground on half, but man, Worthy is putting down the damage. Are they getting hit by Surge? No, they're just getting hit by the whole lobby. Never mind. 93 above. They get up, though. This is massive. If you're part of the Pickle Gang, if you're a Fresh fan, I know there's going to be a lot of you in chat. You are cheering them on right now because in game number 5 of day 1, this is their chance to pick up that prestigious victory royale, and this is the best we've seen them in, the best positioning they've been able to get so far. They got a Holy Hedges first and second zone. They're on high ground half.
And they
you literally cannot ask for better than this, and a free refresh. If they don't perform in this game, they literally have zero excuses. This is where you need to see them perform if you're going to kind of, have that big confidence leap that people like myself maybe need to have from this team. They can do it, but you've got to do it now if you're going to do it.
What a perfect situation of being too. A full trio wipe, didn't lose a single teammate, and get every single piece of material from that wipe right there. Perfect. First place goes down. That's even better for teams that are up top. But no, it was just Prizzy. It was just a piece of this dynamic trio here. Raptor and Oli are still alive. If Oli's still up, we know they're still definitely in the conversation. Raptor's going to find pace there. Oli down to 0 HP, nothing really to work with, and the storm line on his back. And no, you got to start moving here. They're trying to see if it's going to go back in. Does it? I think it might have.
Oh, no. Sorif just took down Rel and Nubatun in the feed. They got an opposite first rotating. They couldn't hold height and they get taken out. That is devastating, not just for Fresh's team points on the leaderboard, but like I said, they had everything they needed. As Alex's team goes down here as well, and a team that I'm seeing quiet in the feed that actually scares me is Repulse God, Forbes, and Tyrax. Have they set up to take that high ground, as Fresh is now doing it yet again as a solo? He has been by himself, I think, 3 or 4 times now, Monster.
Yeah, these end games with Fresh just being as a lone warrior, but he has been really playing his heart out here. He's playing exceptional Fortnite right now. Even that rotate there was a great one to make, and he's got so much mats to build with. Nice little 2x1 to go ahead and give himself some distance, right? Here's the team, though, to keep an eye out on. The team that's trying to climb their way all the way back up, and they're on a rocket ship. Hopefully, it's got plenty of fuel to continue to fly on up, because they're at 38 points now, almost up to 40. As teams start to fall now, this is where the placement points are going to start giving out. Of course, you want to play up to those final instances, though, as Fresh gets in front of the zone.
And Basil on the feed right now as well. Raptor goes down, so that team's struggling as it is. It's Sync, Volks, and Sorov. My pick to win it this weekend on the high ground, and that is an experienced team on high ground. I know that Repulse is looking for high ground. I know Suns is looking for high ground with that RPG. It is going to be all eyes on Volks' team. Can they hold it as they take down Jinx, the 3 times FNCS champion? And I think they're the team the highest in the leaderboard right now, who's looking the most solid, coming into this game on 2nd place. We've seen, I believe, all of Raptor, Prizzy, and Oatley's team down, or maybe just Oatley in this one. And look at the high ground. Zone pulls back. They have everything they need. They take down Brezzo. They've got the high ground monster. They get zone, and they're getting eliminations. This is everything for this team to try and jump up into first. Our first place team up until now has been held by Prizzy. Do we finally see someone take that mantle?
Yeah, no, without a doubt. Listen, Sora, Volks, and Sync will be able to definitely take it with that high ground that they have, but hold up. On the low ground, it's anyone's game here. Muzz and Ludo go clash with Mako, Sunswick, and Cypher there. Cypher's going to get taken out. The Cypher's going to go in and close things up. The other Suns, Cork and Tui here, though, also fighting for themselves. No! High ground, like they said, was going to be conquered, and Tyrax, Repulse, and Forbes pull it off. And now, as I thought they were going to get a free pass to first place, no, Forbes and Tyrax are here to play.
No, Sorif and Sync and Volks are going to be so upset by this one. They are just getting absolutely... You don't want to use the word grief because Repulse's team needs this. They said they're going to go for high ground. They warned everyone in the region. They want their big games as Sorif takes down Repulse. Gets a little bit of payback there. Sync is still in this one. They've got big eliminations though. Sorif can do something up there on the high ground monster. This will be a massive point game. I talked about how there's some sharks lurking in the lobby. They get the revive onto Repulse though on rotating zones. Sync is trying to put down some damage. She's known as Big Dale to those of you in OCE, and Big Dale's trying to do big things in the rest of this game because, man, Sorov and Sink have to do it. They need to get at least that top 3, though, Monster. They need that really good placements, but where's Sun's team? There it is. Sunswick goes down in the feed. I was going to say, where's that RPG? It's out of play. Tyrax goes down. The high ground play wasn't it. We right now still see that Sorov and Sink have the advantage as Suns goes into the box. This is fantastic for your high ground team because these are the full trios going head to head and taking each other out of the game.
And it's crazy because we still have 8 trios, 7 trios now up, and no one's gotten top 3 where the real placement matters, and we're in the final zone, so 11 players alive. Somehow, though, Repulse and Forbes are still alive there. Oatly, how are you alive as a solo for your trio? Give away your slot already. Stop taking this entire tournament. Like, he is literally fighting for first place. This is going to be a crazy game coming into the last round as Forbes now finally gets wiped out there, but my gosh.
Oatly has a potential to get top 3 right now. He's getting focused from above. Unfortunately, he's second hype, but if he can hold on for a little bit longer, he clutched up a 4th last time as a solo. Can he do a top 3? That 6-point swing. The spray's coming out. The pressure's coming out right now. He is the solo in this lobby right now. Sink and Sorov are above them right now. This is going to be so intense. Oatly drops down. Can Oatly do something? Does he fall? He does. Oatly takes down Tui. He goes down. I think he's 4th, I believe, overall right now. Gut-wrenching again. Core comes down. Around the corner, takes down Spraz. He can't get the med kit off. He has 3, 2, 1 tick, and High Ground is going to win this one. I have to believe the Volks and Sorov have this as Sorov gets the elimination for good measure, an 11-point victory royale, and we see my pick to win the weekend jumping up into that first place slot. We've finally seen it. Prizzy, Raptor, and Oatly, I believe, have been dethroned. As I say that, though, they came 4th place, so Oatly, honestly, I don't know. I saw Prizzy that first game, right, Monster, get a 9 elimination solo, and I thought Prizzy's going to be, the focus of this team. Only pulling off 2 solo clutches in trio FNCS. You can't overstate that.
That's the thing, right? He's literally staying alive. He's surviving. He's being the clutch factor for his squad, and that's the difference maker. I keep calling out, like, give up the spot, but I'm just saying, it's because they're fighting tooth and nail. They're clawing their way to the final instances.
I mean, as casters, we don't want to pick favorites, but we just love a good story. Like, we love the entertainment. When one team just kind of jumps through and clear, it kind of does make it a little bit less exciting. But man, Oatly just with the team on his back, huge performance. We'll have to throw it to the analysts, though, so they can break down the leaderboard, because I don't know, maybe we see Volks' team on top, but either way, this is so much closer than we originally thought. Vandy, give us your thoughts.
Thanks so much, always, casters. Absolutely. Oatly just had the world on his back and he didn't even crack a sweat. This team is in peak physical condition today, and we are just like, you're having to pick our jaws off up the ground. That's just how well they've been doing. But with one more game here, we have started to see the leaderboard start to shift. We have seen it hasn't just been back to back now. Guys, I mean, this is the final game of the day, and Aussie kind of highlighted this. So for that, I guess it would be nice to just hear from you as well. If you're kind of in that position where, you didn't really have the best day one showing, what are you wanting to change up for day 2?
Yeah, honestly, I think the way that Repulse, Tyrax, and Forbes have played the last 2 games is the perfect answer to that question. To them, it's not that they didn't have the best showing. They quite literally were not able to play due to some tech issues for the first 3 games, but they bounced back right there. They claimed on Twitter that they were going to play for high ground. They tried taking high ground in a very valiant effort against Sorov, Sink, and Volks. Were not able to do so. But the way in which they're playing with aggression for early game, through mid game, picking up eliminations, and then trying to contest for high ground, trying to secure themselves a top 3 finish has been impressive. 2 very, very good games in a row here. Timmy, anything you'd add to that?
Yeah, I want to continue to really emphasize how important confidence is and has been today. You think about the confidence that Oatly has had. He's clutched up twice as a solo. You only do that if you're confident in your game and you know what you're doing. You've got that confidence in your theory and then in your gameplay. On top of that, the confidence that Forbes and Tyrax have in the way that they've played, but then also Sorov and Sink. You got to think, who had height at half there? Rel and Nubatoon, Land Holly Hedges, they had it the whole way through, but when it came down to it, Sorov, Sink, and Volks were the ones who had the confidence to go up, take it, and they were the ones who ended up taking the victory royale there, Vandy.
It's just really cool to see as well, because if you are able to play with that confidence, you've kind of just been able to put your best foot forward, and it carries over to day number 2. So it's been a real interesting showing, because we have seen these teams, right? The confidence from like Frizzy, Oatley, these guys, like we've just seen them go from strength to strength to strength. For the other guys as well, like Repulse, as you said, didn't really get a chance to kind of boot on in, but still came out just out of the gates, just full steam ahead. Fallout, I mean, with this final thing, with the predictions that we've done as well, were there any upsets?
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that Raptor, Frizzy, and Oatley are in first place right now is an upset in its own right. I don't think any of us would have predicted that. They are currently within either first or second. I'm excited to take a look at the standings here in a second to see where they're at, but that alone is a huge surprise, I think. The fact that Jinx, Alec, and Worthy are not in the top 10, also a big upset, big surprise in my eyes.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's have a look at those standings. I mean, you kind of hinted towards it, and this is going to be really exciting. So we'll go ahead and bring them up and start to digest, because there's only one more game after this, Timmy.
Yeah, so there we go, and it's really started to tighten up there. So Sorov, Volks, and Sync up the top there. 2 victory royales, they share that with Raptor, Prizzy, and Oatley with 2 victory royales as well. But it shows the consistency on the other games is important. The fact that Oatley was only solos in those other 2 games is clutch might be the difference there between the 5 points. Pumpkin, Cypher, and Suns coming in at second, but there's a good 32-point gap there. That's quite significant. These guys are slowly opening up the lead as we go through the rest of them. Suns, Tui, Cork. We saw them at the end there. It's all about consistency. 2 consistent performances puts them in the top 4. Basil, Jason, Vortex, again, consistency puts them in the top 5 there, Fallout.
Yeah, consistent elims for them. Every time I look at the elim feed, it's Cypher somewhere in there, so that goes to show why they're in 3rd place. And 6th place, Muzz, Looter, and Speedy, our predictions. Timmy and I, of course, they're currently in 6th with 107 points. Expect them to try and bounce back here in game number 6. Freshrel, Nubatoon, Brezzo, Culture, and Lunar, who really ended the days of quite a few teams last game by playing very aggressive, getting some picks. You'll see them all the way through 10th. Let's just keep kind of cruising through these standings here as we take a look at 11th through 15th. I'm curious to see if Forbes, Tyrax, and Co were able to sneak on in, and guess what? Yes, they did. 14th place, above Jinx, Alec, and Worthy, who have played all 5 games. That is so impressive, Timmy, for our 14th place team.
Yeah, and sorry, just to point out the last sheet, Spraz, Remy, and their teammate have had a really rough day today, but they've shown, Pace, sorry, is their teammate, but they've shown 1 good game is enough to take you up to the top 10. So it's really impressive from those guys. But yeah, as we round out the 15th through 20 here, Neo, Fab, and Chemo, as we said, contested off Spawn. The fact that they're in the top 16, quite impressive in my eyes. As we rounded out the reboot round guys in the 20th position there. But what I'm looking for in this final game is for someone to take the game by the scruff of the neck, for really make a good play for that top 5, top 6 play. Anyone in that top 10 at the moment is within, punching range. So it's really going to be interesting. This last game here is going to make all the difference here, Vandy.
It absolutely will. And I mean, let's hear from our casters now that we've wrapped it up, because of course that final game is just around the corner. Aussie Antics and Monster, please take it away for the final time today.
Game 6.
Thank you so much, Vandy. Game number 6 is going to set all the tone for tomorrow. We have big teams up there. Me and Monster were just talking about it, how close it is. Our 2nd place team getting 2 4th places. That extra 12 points would have them clear in 1st place. But we do see our first change up of the day here. We have a new team going into the final game of the lead. Volks' team, we got big stories, Monster. There's so much happening. We just said Repulse's team is now ahead of our FNCS champions with only 2 games played compared to 5.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. They're playing so good, and that's the crazy part about it, as this is just a taste of what we're going to see from them throughout the course of this weekend. Remember, although we might be approaching or right into the game number 6 right now, the final game of day 1 for this finals tomorrow is a full fresh days. No one can come up short because you're watching exceptional play out of multiple teams, man. I'm looking at the whole top 6, like everyone's playing so well.
I was about to say, though, we've seen a shake-up of the landing spots. I think Speedy's team might be coming out on top, but we have Speedy, Looter, and Muzz contested at Lazy Lake by our Jedi Knight team that was going Sweaty Sands. So, interesting change of drop spot. I mean, they were going, I guess, equal with Squeaks. Maybe they want to try their hand at going better than equal on a team that's way higher on the leaderboard, though. So, really feel sorry for, their team, their Speedy's team getting contested. I hope they can win this one. They do have the firepower of Looter and Muzz. And, I mean, we talk about how they have the firepower. Speedy, in his own right, is a phenomenal player. So eyes on the feed to see if they win that Lazy Lake fight, because that team's right up there in top 5.
Yeah, look at this though. Bantus, Gussos, and District here. District's going to get a little bit of backup from down low. The tags are going to be good to connect all the way through. The siphon keeps them alive, and now They have a fighting chance to go and walk away with that. Here's a quick glance at Lazy Lake at the fight that's already wrapped up. It's already said and done, right? Muzz and company end up walking away with that one. Looks like Muzz gets rebooted right back into the game, so he's picked back up. And remember, that's a team that still is very much in a fighting stance here to take away this weekend. Although they're gapped behind, right? 60-point gap from them to that first place. That's a massive, massive point discrepancy between the two. But in a 2-day format, it's still anyone's game.
Yeah, they can jump back up as well. I even saw, I look on Twitter, I like trying to get the background info, how the players are feeling. I know Luda didn't look like he was going too good in this last game mental-wise. That's why I'm so happy they managed to win that spawn fight. I think that would have really affected their momentum here as District gets a big charged shotgun shot to open up this one. And interesting zone to fight. It's an interesting area to fight right now over this kind of John Wick house. There's a lot of loot on this edge, but if you try to split it up and you get contested like you're seeing here, comes this big 50-50 on one house. And if you win it, you do get to go get the Fort Crumpet, you get to get a solo char, you get to get all the area around this, but there's no reboot van out here, Monster. So both these teams not looking great after this one. If either of them wins it, still going to struggle.
Yeah, the one thing they do have working for them, though, is that zone. That zone at least is going to give them some options to go ahead and figure out something here. But look at this. Squeaks, Zora have now rolled up. They've come in straight out of Sweaty Sands. District here sits inside the box by himself. He gets spotted out, though. Zora blind checks the box, and District moves, and that was enough for him to go ahead and find him. And yeah, you can be a solo, but you're not going to survive for much longer. Not when these guys are on the hunt. I don't see a Jolin in here. Yep, so Jolin's already down. And I have to assume maybe it just didn't make it into the lobby because it looked like they didn't have the draw spot contested.
I'm thinking a disconnect issue is what is going on here. Never mind, it's just Stealthy Stronghold. We've seen this before. We're seeing as you jump around from both teams, though. Team MG, 6 points right now. If we switch back over perspectives, I don't think our other team here, Seldom's team, is doing too much better on the leaderboard. This has been an absolute emotional battle for both these teams who really are just massively affecting each other's FNCS by taking these fights. But the fastest we've seen that close out. So maybe learning to take this fight a little bit faster.
Yeah, no, I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all. That fight's just been going all kinds of crazy there. And again, both sides not really reaping any big benefits from it. Here, though, Elusive on the other side has to do something as a solo. We have seen this story multiple times today. It happens over and over. The 1v2s, the 1v3s, they're just they're not in favor today. This FNCS trios, man, they're coming with it. They're coming with it. People are not throwing away the leads. I think we've seen one clutch up, and actually it was that HVT trio early on today at Stronghold. So other than that, it's been very much, I guess, textbook, right? Seeing things unfold the way they should have unfolded.
Yeah, some big names missing out here, though. Jinx, Alec, and Worthy, the FNCS reigning champions, trying to go for their 4th FNCS for Jinx as well. Currently in 15th place. That's a very, very big lead to overcome from a team that, like I've said, they have their consistent high ground games. They definitely get wins on the board, but it's not usually on the back of insane aggression or really, really big games. So I have to hope they can mentally reset tonight and bring something tomorrow, because it would be so unfortunate to see them go down. I wanted to say even anything outside the top 3 would be an upset for that team. So they've got a lot of pressure on them now. And I talked earlier tonight saying that if any team can deal with the pressure, it's going to be their team. But it's a lot of pressure, Monster.
Yeah, look at this. We're seeing a little chase happen right here. Tassie, oh no, he doesn't even have bills. Puma barely has anything to work with either. Zora and Squeaks here are definitely a lot more comfortable. Not looking too worse for Wares. They're on the hunt. They need so many points to go ahead and close the gap here, really come back in this tournament. And that's why, you know, it's not a terrible chase of a fight here to go ahead and go across the map. It's still in the zone. They're still very much making what it looks like a dead side rotate, and they'll have the Storm Surge to play off of. So it all ends up checking out for them. Here's Fresh, though. Fresh needs to win this fight. They can use these points right here. This is the difference, but no. Fresh gets punished by Cripple. What a beautiful snipe right there to really even things out.
Yeah, but Fresh has already popped the mini. He's already ready to go again. You see Nubatoon on the top right now. The big fighting power of this trio, trying to find those angles. Fresh also has that blue tactical shotgun. I've said it many times. I feel like that is an ultimate win condition for this team. It's why he'll usually get the big tack from this team. Nubatoon also has that legendary pistol, not to be understated how strong it could be, as they try to go for the same right-hand peek, same cheeky snipe onto Fresh, but this time they miss. Fresh has got to be really careful, because if they manage to get that as a headshot, things are going to turn very quickly, as I like this from Fresh and Nubatoon. having the confidence, having the aggression to work their way in. Nubatoon drops in and takes big damage, though. He's got to back out right now. Fresh is going to try and close in and try and finish this one out as well. Rel's going to take some damage. This could go against them quite quickly, but there it is. Fresh with the big tax shot, like I know he can do just the best. He's trying to find his way into this box now. Cripper is running. Fresh trying to make his way through the builds. Nubatoon is surely healed back up by now and ready to fight this one out, but I don't think it's going to matter. Fresh has that tack. He gets 2 of the 3 knocks right now, and it's going to be, can he get the 3rd? He does. Fresh gets the full trio wipe. I love it when you hype something up, Monster, and then they deliver just so perfectly. Fresh showing that beautiful tack accuracy.
And the piece control, everything that you need, a little 3-piece to take it all home. On the other side, though, we have another 1v1, and Skits here trying to make a name for himself, trying to make a comeback story here in this game. There's no room to miss, though, because you will get taken out, and now it's an exchange of swords on both sides, and Apolox's team wins once again. They do tend to win these early game fights. They do tend to win these mid-game engagements, but for whatever reason, the end games aren't really going in their favor, and that's why they're struggling right now in the competition. But a team like this, a team that is winning these fights, is one that you need to keep an eye out on for day 2. Day 1 might be out of the question, might be out of the running here, but day 2 is a day to come back and reset.
Yeah, if you can win those mid-game fights, it shows the confidence to at least take them. You can capitalize on them, but right now they're really struggling to put things together as Repulse, Tyrax, and Forbes really showing such an insanely impressive performance here. If you guys missed it earlier today, this team didn't connect into the first 3 games, having really unfortunate technical difficulties on Forbes' part. They now get an elimination on the board there. Forbes takes down Skits. They are now on that many points. I believe that was 56 as a trio in only 2 games. So this is technically their 3rd game. It's everyone else's 6th. And they're doing big things. They're going to really upset things tomorrow and kind of create more of this storyline because they're the anomaly. You can't look at their overall placement. You have to look at them right now being arguably the most consistent team here in the minimal games they've had.
Yeah, it's insane. They put themselves in top 13 after 2 rounds, and now they're continuing to push through these squads, and they're not stopping. This game in particular shows that they're trying to drop a dirty 20 on the lobby. I think they're going to be going all the way. It's no joke. At this point, the way the zone looks like it's going to play out, they'll be able to warpath, soldier their way through the rest of this lobby. The gunplay here should be enough to pick this one up. Apolox down to 3 HP, no mats. There it is. That's the cleanup. Beautiful job for Repost and company.
And I believe this is the first game of the day, not just where we haven't seen first active surge, which is the 70 players alive required that we've just dropped below, but it's the first game we haven't seen any active surge. Like, we have now seen active surge on every single 70, 50, and 30 zone. And now here in this final game, game number 6 of a 12-game format, remember? So we talk about leaving it all out there on the line, you know, having that massive game to close out a tournament. Yeah, you want to do that in game 6, but you've got 6 games tomorrow, so people can't lose their head right now. They've got to play for consistency as well. And right now we're seeing that OCE, maybe we're seeing a bit of a lack of mental fortitude, some of them getting a little bit tilted, getting a little bit nervous potentially, as this is the game to try and drop that huge elimination threshold like Repulse is trying to go for. As you see Eshes, Ronan, and Will, I noticed this was the first game I believe they were uncontested at retail, so trying to have that big performance for them as well.
Yeah, Retail Road. We know Eshes and Ronan's been landing there. They were having that fight, you know, a little skirmish up against Caddy's corner that seems to want to rotate on up and take the battle to them. They've had a lot of success. It's been working out so far. Pretty decent. We talked about how Forbes, Tyrax, and Repulse were there in 13th. They're tied up with Will, Ronan, and Agent. They're pretty much neck and neck. They're battling their way out. And again, Will, Ronan, and the Aces, there, they started the game off with every round, right? They've managed to play every game of Fortnite. And even then, that just shows you how good of a pace that Repulse and crew is on, right? They're just tearing things up right now.
They are tearing things up. And again, respect to Esh's team for being contested most of the games here today and still managing to put up a respectable score. If that's a sign of things to come with Midnight Shocker and Tekmar's team not going retail anymore, that means maybe they'll have a better run of things tomorrow and could potentially jump up there into the big points. So, I don't know, going to have to keep an eye on them as well as Muzz, Looter, and Speedy. We talked about how this is their first time contested at Lazy Lake in the distance. They won that fight. They're making their way in. Remy and Spraz in the distance. So, we've got a lot of big teams here, a lot of teams inside that top 10 10, still trying to have a final huge game as Jace, Basil, and Vortex, a team you're going to have to keep your eyes on going into tomorrow. We saw a very unlucky start from them here today, just kind of going down or at least being wounded at the hands of teams that were struggling for their surge, putting them in awkward spots as Tyrax, Repulse, and Forbes have found another team. It's MeSport, Ice, and Soul they're holding in zone, and this is looking like it might be 3 free eliminations as Repulse hits the zip line into Storm to try and get some eyes in the sky and get some damage. Man, this guy is just so confident. It's insane.
They're like, hey, listen, I know we want to get these ones, but, we do still have to play kind of smart. Storm fights are, not the way to go, not that deep at least. So they're going to back up. They're probably just going to end up holding his team behind it. Wouldn't be surprised if I see them leave like 1 or 2 behind it, just try to play for some tags, right? Maybe open up the distance here a little bit.
They're going to open up the distance, but I mean, that's 3 free eliminations. They're going to potentially try and get on the board. They're very, very deep here, but have they slowed down their rotation too much, Monster? We've seen what this team can do end game, but we've seen how usually they're kind of, I don't know, I guess their lose condition is taking that one fight too many that then kind of cripples them coming into the end game, and they can't set up properly, and that's what I'm a little bit scared here, because yes, they're holding this team on edge. Yes, they might get 3 free eliminations out of it, but I guess they've got Salty Towers ahead of them. So as I say that, they can kind of snake their way in and rotate late. It's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, Salty Tower is also a place that should have some leftover bandages, possibly med kits, right? There's so much floor loot here. If there's a place that you want to rotate through to get to that new zone and hopefully bounce back off a health deficit, it's going to be there. But it seems like they end up chug splashing their way up anyways. And again, they're back in the competition. MeSport, Ice, and Soul, they know what they're doing. They know they need to keep their distance and try to play their way around. They play wide left, which is going to be further away from the zone. Naturally, Repulse and everyone else here, Tyrax, they're going to rotate towards the zone, right? The closer side. So, again, good calls by MeSport to go ahead and give themselves some distance, just exercise a smart Fortnite play. You got to respect them for that.
You got to respect, and that's the thing. You can't remember that. When you got to remember, they are an aggressive team. They win their fights. They take their fights, but there is a method to their madness. You don't get this level of consistency taking that many fights and not having a good understanding of why you're doing it, as we haven't really seen a zone too much like this. We haven't really seen actually any sand or crystal endgame today, which is, quite notable. In 6-game format, this is our 6th game. The only time we've seen it end on this biome that gives you more of those endgame rotate potentials, as Muzz gets a 3-peat onto Midnight Techmar's team there, as Repulse, Forbes, and Tyrax, they get into zone. Well, I mean, I say they get into zone. They're out of Storm. They're not in the next zone, but they're still not done with another team now. We have Spraz, Remy trying to get away from Repulse here as well.
Yep, and they're not looking good right now. These guys are looking banged up here. Remy, no shield. And, it only takes one little shotgun poke to go out and give these guys the full green light. But no, they're not going to stick around and try to find out here, as they got to make the rotate on in. And if they white line it, it's going to cost them a lot of material, possibly shield here. You can see they already get tagged up just for trying to inch their way forward. So they might be taking a big engagement. Tyrax seems like he's gotten sniped as well. So all of a sudden we talk about how they can end up taking the wrong fight, one fight too many, and then being worse for wears coming into those end games. That's what we're looking at right there. It might have just been a little too late on the rotate.
We've lost Nubatoon here, which is a little bit rough. We got Fresh and Rel trying to close it out. I know Nubatoon's one that can get a little bit angsty. Is one of the more, I want to say, energetic players in OCE. I don't think he'll like watching this final game from the sidelines. I hope Fresh and Rel can manage to clutch up some big points here, as they're one of our few teams inside that top triple-digit area now. That's kind of setting your top 7-ish mark right now. So kind of breaking into the top 5. Going to see if they can somehow maybe finish today on that top 5 here, as Repulse, Tyrax, and Forbes getting sprayed out on edge, and a massive misplay from Repulse. He doesn't have the floor, doesn't have the wall. Popping the big pot, gets the big shot, and now Tyrax in a rough spot as well. Repulse is not going to be happy. That was a huge lapse of judgment, which is going to put a massive, I don't want to say halt. Maybe Tyrax can do something, but it's really going to throw a spanner in the work of a team that was on such a good tear at the end of the day here. An unfortunate lapse of judgment from a player who you do expect better from, but even gods are human, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, like they said, gods can bleed here too. Anything can happen. And man, they were so close to cracking a top 10. Could you believe it? They were just a couple of games away, or just a couple instances, I should say. A couple clashes away, man. One more team wipe, and that would have just been it. But, these fights, man, you're going up against FNCS finalists. You've got to put respect on the players. They're all here for good reason. And it doesn't matter what kind of fury and power you bring to the battles. It only takes one wrong tag, one misplay. You get punished big time.
I just saw Oatly and Prizzy go down as well. So our first place team to kick off today with the back-to-back, the record-breaking first time you've ever seen back-to-back wins in OCE FNCS, are now looking like they've only got one player to hold on here. I believe, if that, maybe the whole trio is down. So an unfortunate kind of slowdown at the end of their day. We haven't had eyes on Sorov, Volks, and Sync, but I believe they're still alive and looking good from what I can see from the feed. They haven't been on the giving or receiving end of any real action so far. So if they're up and healthy, things are looking fantastic for them to jump ahead in this final game 6, as Suns, Tui, and Cork also kind of on that upward trajectory here. Got that 8 elim second place, which has really jumped them up after their 10 elim first. Like, damn, that is 2 huge games. If they can try and do that again here in game number 6, Monster, this whole narrative is just completely flipped.
Yeah, and again, it's hard to follow because it's not to be confused with Suns Wick, Cypher, and Pumpkin, right? Like, they're both having phenomenal games. Like, you're literally talking about a neck-and-neck race. Yeah, 3rd and 4th that are playing just out of their minds, and they're both making end games. They're both just popping off, finding the elims when it matters most. But the difference is that Suns, Tui, and Cork, they've really been doing it in the back half of the tournament, right? Whereas on the opposite, Mako kicked things off to kick things off, right? The first 3 were going very, very well for them. It looks like this game's going great too. Fantastic 4 elims already. Is going to really start to pace them out, start to break them out ahead. With second place being out the game, we're now going to see a team that we thought was not going to be looking back today all of a sudden be gapped out, or again, making it closer, right? Lose the lead that they had, and all of a sudden it's going to be very, very close up towards the top.
I'm going to say right there, that was one of the most scary situations I've ever seen my first place pick team in. Hitting the bouncer with Worthy with clear sightlines, you normally would expect a lot more damage to go out onto Sorov and Volks there. I've said it before, one of the most lethal riflers in the world, not just OCE, Worthy, and he just managed to miss the shots. They hit a few, but man, I'm happy to see Volks and Sorov make it out of the end of that bounce pad. I guarantee if they knew that was Worthy above them, they wouldn't have made that play, but sometimes you got to get a little bit of luck as well to keep on the first place team right now, as we also have everyone who's in this top 5 except for second place, Monster, really set up. I think we're going to have such a phenomenal game 6 here leading into tomorrow, because it's way closer than we originally expected after the start of today.
Yeah, and not to mention, at least we're seeing a little bit of life come out of Worthy and Jinx up above, right, Alec? They need this. Like, they literally need this. You know, this could be the difference in jumping them into top 10 and then setting them up for tomorrow. You know, they hit the drawing board, they come back here. Maybe we see the FNCS champions come back at it again. But down low, Muzz, Speeda, and Looter have been just silent and deadly, creeping away at the leaderboards, chipping away at the bigger picture, the sculpture here, and they're doing it well.
Oh, Volks gets a big tag. I was going to say, what I'm getting excited for is the firepower. Muzz has the legendary tactical shotgun. Looter has the epic tac shotgun, 6 splashes. I saw that Volks had the legendary charge shotgun, had the floppers, had the minis. Everyone's got the firepower in this lobby. The big teams of the big names that need to show up big have the big loadout. So this is going to be a ridiculously explosive endgame. I can already feel it. It is really going to go down to mechanics here, as if any of these teams run into each other, they've all got the firepower to close out and have big clutches, as Muzz's team trying to hit a really nice rotate around the edge. Volks' team is so close to them as well. Sync's leading this. We talk about big brains in the OCE scene. You have Sync and Speedy, 2 of the oldest pros, not just in OCE, but the world in general. They're in their early 20s, but that's old for Fortnite. But honestly, they're trying to lead these mech demons, trying to get them to endgame, because they know if they unleash them on the lobby, they're going to get those huge points with those loadouts.
Yeah, definitely, and this is that sink or swim type of situation right here. And for Worthy, Alec, and Jinx, it is literally just that. They're up above. They're trying to figure things out here. This should be textbook. Volks is going to find Esches. Esches has been really popping off here, but that's big for Volks. Volks is needing those. Fresh still up as well. Remember, this is a 2-man crew, a 2-man band right now, as they lost Nubatoon way early in the game. And Nubatoon, again, having to root on from the sidelines here. Only 87 damage above the threshold, so Fresh has to stick behind, look for some tags, and nothing just yet.
I just saw Looter take down Sync in the feed, so that's one of the players down in our first place team. Haven't got capitalized onto yet, as Rel gets taken so low. Fresh trying to hold this wall and trying to hold on to something here, as I noticed they made this rotate on the back of those 0-point fish. Super smart, and they lose Sync. Sync does go down. It's Sorov, it's Volks. The edits are coming out. Sorov's unfortunately messing it up here. The pressure is too much. They're trying to make their way through, though. They didn't take too much damage on it. Volks still has that big loadout. They're a man down, but if they can get inside that top 3, top 5 alive, especially. Here it is, Volks with the big shot, the 132. I called it. I knew it was coming. So Volks with that legendary charge shotgun is going to be absolutely lethal as he takes over the topping, leading this team to front side right now. This is your first place team trying to hold on to everything they can as Suns, Tui, and Cork are after them. They've had two of the best games here today, back-to-back 4 and 5. Can they close out game 6 as Jinx, Alec, and Worthy also still in this one?
Yeah, listen, they're fighting for third right now. Jinx, Alec, and Worthy are fighting for top 10. Here it is. Suns does have that rocket launcher. They've been putting it to work all day long. DJ up above here is going to be the target focus. But no, we're going to hop back and forth. We're going to see a little bit of everything. Bastel's going to continue to fight his way through this game here. Looter, Muzz, and Speedy still alive as well. 8 eliminations, make it 9 as they continue to trickle on in. Things are adding up here, and this is the team fighting for third. It's messy. How do you track this? You need to fight your way out, and he's still doing it. The multitasking, it's all working out for them.
And that was it. Those teams were on identical points who just ran into each other there. Speedy, Looter, and Muzz are still surging forward. 8 teams alive, 18 players. Tui goes down to Looter. That is going to kind of slow down their big performance here. They're still alive. They still do have Cork and Suns in this one, so they can still do it. Only Tui fell there. So we've got some big teams in this, but Looter is the full trio. We see Alec, Worthy, and Jinx on top of, I want to say, their thrones. Right now, it's looking more like a stool because they haven't had the best performance, but we're used to seeing them on high ground, and when they take it, they dominate. So we have to see them close out this win as Muzz, Looter, and Speedy, so many points on the board, 10 eliminations. Can they get that top 3? As Volks is still in this, Sorok is still in this as well. There's Volks on the low ground. Our first place team is taking big damage over to Cypher right now. 201 points, 7 eliminations onto Volks. I said if you take this man into endgame with this loadout, he'll show you that he is one of the best in the world. And no, the rocket comes in. They get top 3 though. Can they secure top 2? Sorok's making his way around the edges, and no, Speedy steps out.
But it's okay. Looter's still here to pop off, and Worthy will be able to be worthy of the victory royale here to close out this game. 90 points now. 90 big points. I don't know if that's going to be enough to break into top 10, but at least they got themselves a victory royale. At least they show some life here in the last game of the day.
They show some life at the very, very end, and it's interesting. Those are 3 of our caster and analyst picks all crashing, going head-to-head at the end. We finally had your team, Jinx, Alec, and Worthy, show up like we knew they could. Volks' team break the 200 points, and we see Looter, Speedy, and Muzz show up as well. So what a ridiculous Game 6 monster. That'll do it for us here on the cast, but don't worry, we're going to be back again tomorrow for 6 more games, the final 6 games, where we're going to see who takes out the $90,000 prize pool that's on offer. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm going to throw it back to the analysts so they can break it down. I think we might know our first place team, but it's going to be ridiculously close.
Thanks so much, guys. Absolutely loved the energy, and what a game number 6 it was. This time it was Monsters prediction showing up. So, you know, we had Jinx, Alec, Worthy, another team that we had our eye on since the beginning, finally show up on the day, and it was wonderful to see, Timmy.
Yeah, really good. It was actually all 3 predictions in the top 3. We saw mine and Fallout prediction in second, and then Soraf and Sync coming in there at third. But as we run through the replays here, I think one thing that's really important to note is that we still have another 6 games. So the standings here are going to be influential, don't get me wrong, but we've only got halfway through our tournament here, Fallout. There's still lots of Fortnite to play.
Yeah, that's right. And I think it's going to be very, very top-heavy. And this just goes to show in OCE, the top teams are so far ahead. They're so skillful. And we always say it. They really and truly can compete against the rest and the best in the world because the talent in OCE is so strong, but it is so top-heavy. The S tier, the A tier have really proven strong, which is why the 3 teams that we kind of predicted to do well are all faring fairly well now going into tomorrow's final 6 games. So I'm excited to see what it is, but really the story of this tournament for me has been who you just saw get taken out right there. It's been wrapped up Prizzy and Oatley, someone that neither of us expected to go big, and they've really performed incredibly well. Of course, Cyper, who we see on screen right now, playing as CLR hard worker, always seems to be on screen or in the elimination feed, playing very, very well. And really, the MVPs of that last game, the highlights for my eyes at least, was Speedy, Looter, and Muzz with been a big pop-off game that might just put them in the top 3 or top 4, Timmy.
Yeah, you know, there are some certain things in the universe. You know, the sun will rise in the morning, the earth goes round the sun, and Jinx will always have a good game and an FNCS. So it's not a surprise to me whatsoever that these guys finish up really strongly. Confident players, they know how to play these stacked end games, and it's, again, like I said, not a surprise to me whatsoever that we saw them take out that last game win, Vandy.
Absolutely right. I do have our standings ready to go, so let's jump into them before we switch conversation. But a big showing from a lot of teams, and Fallout, just take us through, I guess, the road to getting here. Just give us a recap.
Absolutely. Really, it was Rapta and Prizzy who started so strong. The first team in FNCS history to open a tournament in FNCS finals, winning the first 2 games. They quieted down quite a bit over the last few, though, and as a result of that, well, a 50-point near lead for Sorif, Volks, and Sink. However, what stands out to me the most is look at that, second, third, and fourth. Only 6 points separate them. We have a 2-way tie for second. Of course, that goes to Raptor, Prizzy, and Oatly for taking home a victory royale, where we haven't seen Muzz, Looter, and Speedy do it yet, but look at the limbs that we've gotten from them. They have been playing so incredibly well. I've been very impressed. And then, of course, Cyper, Pumpkin, and Sun's been playing very consistent. Speaking of Suns, we got Suns, Tui, and Cork in 5th place right after that. Timmy, walk us through 6th through 10th.
Yeah, just to touch on Sorrow, Volks, and Sink and their consistency. That's a word we're throwing around all day. Listen to these games. 6th place, 3 elims. 2nd place, 10 elims. 1st with 6. 1st with 11. 3rd with 10. You do not have that kind of consistency and have a bad day. Like, it's no wonder they're ahead by 50 points. And, huge congratulations to Aussie for picking them, because unbelievable play today. But as we round out our top 10 here, Basil, Jason, Vortex slipped towards the end there. Brezo, Luna, and Culture, again, that team that I keep on bringing up, they just seem to always be in the top 10. If we look through their match history, we're going to see them up the top there. Fresh Roll and Nurbatoon in 8th. Jinx, Alec, and Worthy, a big game to finish off for them. Still 22 points shy of that top 8, but that last game really going to show they are not a team to write off. As I said, there's certain things that are certain in the universe, and one thing is that you always can expect a good game out of Jinx, so I expect to see an improvement from yesterday. And then Zan, Zora, and Roka round out our top 10 here, Fallout.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be quite the story if Jinx, Alec, and Worthy can pick up tomorrow where they left off today with the Victor Royale and continued consistency. We will see. But then even down to 15th place, I think any of these teams still are in contention for tomorrow as well. That's what's so brilliant about this format. You can show up big tomorrow. You can correct your mistakes and perform. You see Bathan, Zenix, and Sio who've boosted up their rankings. Puma, Mr. Tassi, and Giovanno, not the best latter half of the 3 games. They started off pretty well, and they've been kind of slipping since then. Remy, Pace, and Spraz, we've been talking a lot about. Will Ronan and Eshes finally catching their footing, playing Retail Row. They're in 15th place. As we took a look at our last and final page, something tells me we'll see Repulse, Forbes, and Tyrax in that, who, of course, did not play the first 3 games, or actually maybe even 4, but actually, 3, but have looked really, really good since to me.
Yeah, so teams I'd expect to see make big jumps tomorrow. I'm expecting to see a jump from Repulse, Tyrax, and Forbes as hopefully, fingers crossed, they'll be able to play out all 6 games tomorrow. Also, keep an eye out for Zora, Jarlin, and Squeaks. We don't even see them in the top 20 here, but they're a team that's got lots of experience, that has lots of, they have the have the know-how, they have the wherewithal to make a jump. But as we round out this top 20, other teams to look out for: Neofab and Chemo. They took out the guys contesting them. Cynical, Lucas, and Arrest, and the top 8 in there, and then right up the top there in 16th, Kazuki, DJ, and Kriz, a team that we actually do see quite a bit in late game, but it's just about that consistency again, putting it through, trying to make those final moving zones. And yeah, we're in for a really, really good day of Fortnite tomorrow, and I can't wait to see who makes that jump, who makes that leap to hopefully finish inside that top 5 sort of area where you're making a lot more money than where you would be making if you're down those standings otherwise.
Absolutely. I mean, as you said, the teams that we kind of saw towards, I guess, from 15th to 20th, they have to make big jumps. The teams that did a lot today, it'll be a much easier run tomorrow, but still anything can happen. That's the nature of the game. Guys, any final thoughts before we start to close day number 1 of the finals?
I just got to say on my end, expect the Jinx, Alec, and Worthy show to really continue to heat up tomorrow. I like Monster's prediction. They were one of my predictions all Chapter 2, Season 5. I'm losing my mind here. It's a little late. All of the entirety of this entire FNCS. That's what I was trying to say. They've been my prediction. They've been looking very, very good. Expect them to continue to roll. That's the one prediction and kind of bold statement I have for tomorrow. But I can't wait. It's been a heck of a final so far. I think tomorrow's going to be even better. Timmy, any final thoughts on your end?
I think, again, keep an eye out for Jinx, Alec, and Worthy. They'll hit the VODs. They'll work out what they need to do. They'll make the changes, and I think we'll see a pretty good jump from them tomorrow. But I think go back and watch over these games today, and you'll see a consistency, the fact that consistency is needed, and those are the teams that are going to be ending up on top tomorrow. The teams who are the most consistent throughout these next 6 games that we're going to be playing tomorrow, they're the ones that we're going to see on top here, Bandy.
Timmy will die on that consistency hill, and with good reason, because the teams that were consistent today, like I said, have a much easier run for tomorrow, but still anything can happen. That was day number 1 of the finals that we've just wrapped up. A big thank you, of course, to our casters, Aussie Antics and Monster, yourself, of course, Fallout and Timmy, especially for you, Fallout. It was very, very late for you over there. Thank you so much for everyone watching at home, to our production team, to the Australian Open and Epic Games. Get hyped, because tomorrow is where we get to crown our finals. It's been 5 long weeks. We're almost there, just one more sleep. So we'll see you here again tomorrow, same place, same time.